Hello.
Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Do we want to get started now, or should we wait another minute just in case anyone's joining?
Let me check if we have everybody. Hello, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
You look
Hi.
very early morning.
7 a.m.
Alex, where are you based out of? What part of the world?
I'm on the West Coast.
You're on the West.
And East Coast of the
it's
US.
it's very early there then. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast of the US, but yeah.
Yeah.
Excited and actually to meet you. Yeah.
Alex, yeah, great to meet you too. I was gonna say, I feel like I know you because I've at least heard you on quite a few podcasts, and excited you're working in the AladdinDAO. So Sharlyn, do you want me to kick off, or do you want to kick off?
I think we just need to know who is this person behind C and also iPhone. Don't know who they are.
Let's see.
iPhone is me. I'm gonna be translating for yeah.
No problem.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, who is C? There's someone called C.
That's great. Okay, so we know who iPhone is, and if anyone else joins. One thing before we do get started is when we do introductions later of Boule candidates, just forgive me. I'm gonna not be able to pronounce a number of names. So what I'll do is I'll probably just ask if you can introduce yourself. And like I said, forgive me. I'm not good at pronouncing names in Chinese, and I hate to mispronounce them and insult anyone.
I think we are good. Should kick off.
All right. Cool. Well, yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. I am a member of the AladdinDAO, and you are tuning in for this is our second community call, or second official one, technically. It's session 2 for us to meet all of the different potential Boule candidates. Reminder, if you've never participated in AladdinDAO, or if you're new, the point of this is to democratize access to the best farms in DeFi. What's really clever about AladdinDAO is we're bringing together all of the best experts at identifying those yield farms, and then the goal is to be able to put those, very, very plainly said, it's to put them on a dashboard so that any user can easily, whether they're new or a veteran, they can easily identify what are some of the best yield farms, some of the longest sustainable sorts of yields with hopefully less risk to assume. So, today is about, again, letting you get to know more of the candidates that are interested in representing all of us in the DAO and helping to identify those farms. So we call those Boule candidates. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we are going to have a brief panel to talk about investment DAOs with a few of our DAO members. So unless there's any questions before we get started, I think we can kick off into that, and that'll last about 20 minutes. Then we'll do an hour of introductions, and then that'll be followed by another really interesting panel. Who, by the way, Alex, will you be like moderating and participating in this? Or Sharlyn?
Sure.
Actually, the two of you.
Sharlyn's probably, yeah, we'll probably do more than moderating.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That sounds great. So you know what? I'm just going to mute myself, but yeah, you guys have a blast, and we'll get started with the Boule candidates in about 20 minutes.
Okay, Alex, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah. Thank you, guys. I'll start with a little introduction about myself. I've been a crypto investor and then founder in the space for about 7 years or so, since 2014. I helped start and lead crypto investing at Bain Capital Ventures, which is a $120 billion alternative investment firm. It's one of the largest of its kind in the world. And then I co-founded a firm called Dragonfly Capital, which is a multi-billion-dollar AUM crypto fund. And I also co-founded a firm called Imperi Partners, which is a little less known. It's one of the largest crypto specialist investment banks. And then also I was an investment advisor to Hobby, where I worked with Sharlyn and several of the early AladdinDAO contributors, building out Hobby's DeFi Lab international investment team. And today I manage a new crypto fund, and I'm a seed investor and core contributor to AladdinDAO from its very beginning. So over my career, I've invested in maybe 100 or so or more crypto companies and protocols, 20 or 30 of which are now unicorns. And I was one of the first institutional VCs to invest in DeFi. So I've been an early investor in a large percentage of all the DeFi unicorns, protocols like Compound Finance, MakerDAO, 1inch, DYDX, Perp, Kind, Dodo, Celo, Mirror, and then of course a bunch of core protocols like Ethereum and Filecoin and Cosmos. I'm extremely excited to talk to you all today and introduce these amazing Boule candidates.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And then what we've got, and hopefully I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Niraj from Ploychain.
Yep, you got it right. Thank you.
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Niraj. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, sure. So quick background on me, and great to see a lot of other people here on the list that I know. So quick background on me, I first got into the space as a miner. So I still have I don't do much mining today, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for mining related projects. Through mining, did that for a number of years. When I was in school, I got the chance to do some research on some kind of heavier cryptography topics. And then in 2017, I ended up dropping out of school to join Ploychain as one of the kind of earlier partners, and just sort of saw Ploychain through, an evolving landscape in crypto investing and seeing this whole industry grow, before DeFi was even a word or anything like that. So it's cool that we are able to support AladdinDAO as an investor and also as a contributor, and really excited to chat more about the project today.
Excellent. And so lastly, before we start sharing some insights here, Sharlyn, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself in case folks don't know you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm one of the core contributors at AladdinDAO. Very different from most of the other core contributors, this style. I come from a traditional finance background. So I worked with UBS investment banking for many years. And then I led fintech and the blockchain investment at China Merchant Bank. And for people who don't know, it's like the JP Morgan in China. And then I led investment at Hobby, and where I worked with Alex on many interesting initiatives and ideas. And so during that time, we brainstormed about AladdinDAO together, and we decided to build this. Very honored and to have all these supporters and have more Boule candidates joining us from last call and also today's community call. Very excited to work with everybody.
Yeah, and a reminder, there was a session last week, so there's a whole nother batch of amazing candidates that would like to be Boule members. So just heads up, if you want to learn more about those folks, there's all sorts of recognizable names and new names in the bunch that you should get to know. One other thing I would emphasize, actually, since last week, I think I've met with 3 of the Boule candidates that I had never known previously. For me personally, and I would encourage everyone, I think AladdinDAO is an excellent place to just meet other like-minded early adopter yield farmer types. And I personally, in the past week, between the 3 people that I did get to speak with separately, I feel like I've already got my value out of the DAO. So anyways, hopefully you can message one another and find time to connect outside of this. So we're going to basically talk through 3 topics. I'm thinking, Alex, would you want to lead off with just about the vision of AladdinDAO, like why this is unique, and then Niraj would talk about why Ploychain believes that investment, or how Ploychain thinks about investment DAOs in general, and then we can end with Sharlyn talking more about the new possibilities of investment DAOs and like what that can bring to DeFi. So, Alex, would you want to kick off with that? Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share a personal story too, because AladdinDAO, the mission is very personal to me. So my entrance into crypto back in 2014 or so was not really driven by Bitcoin, like most of the people at the time. I wasn't that excited about a digital store of value. It was really more about Ethereum and the early promises of DeFi. The idea that we could harness crypto to disrupt, my own industry at the time, the industry of venture capital and early stage financings. And so the power of crypto and DeFi to me is that it democratizes access to capital so that great technologists can build protocols around the world. And it also democratizes investing. And what crypto really does, if you zoom out large enough, is it makes everyone around the world an investor. But today, this new breed of investor, which includes like all of you sitting in on this call, this new breed of investor has, they have few tools and resources to help them. So nowadays, anyone can buy most tokens. They can participate in yield farming from a smartphone, but there are still huge information asymmetries, right? And we VCs, we find out things before we tend to know more. We're on the other end of the information asymmetry curve. And we do this because we have we're on this curve because we have teams of analysts, we have like technology and research platforms that automatically find new DeFi deals and yield farming opportunities. And then we often share those ideas with each other. So, there's this concept in the hedge fund world of like an idea dinner where hedge fund managers like meet every month and share their best ideas. In crypto, we do this too. And Niraj and I and several others on this call, we have like weekly or monthly calls where we catch up about the latest deals. And I find this a little bit unfair. One, it's unfair, and 2, it's outdated, right? Crypto is meant to disrupt this information asymmetry. So as AladdinDAO, Sharlyn and I and the early contributors, we decided to create a platform that would just massively reduce information asymmetry in DeFi. So I think of it as like an agora, to use these Greek terms, where the most serious and high quality debates, the best research, investment strategy development in DeFi all can occur. And they occur in a public and very transparent way. And then they do it for the community, right? So then the DAO curates and shares these opportunities with the community. And in many ways, it outsources and builds a new scalable version of this industry that I've been in since Bain and Dragonfly and all these firms, and it brings it to the world.
All right. Thanks so much, Alex. Niraj, do you want to talk about, some of the thoughts you all have at Ploychain about investment DAOs?
Sure. So investment DAOs have been an interesting thing to watch ever since DeFi started to get really large and really popular. And something I think we saw as DeFi started getting larger in the community and more traditional venture capital firms started forming around this area was that in general, the landscape has become more competitive, more firms, more capital. And something I think is sort of been a long time coming are these on-chain investment collectives and on-chain investment DAOs. They offer these intangible values that in many ways a traditional firm can't offer. They have this strong community reach. They have a lot of different participants from a bunch of different areas that maybe would be infeasible through a traditional investment vehicle. And long term, I think this is the future. If DeFi if all assets in the world are ported to DeFi, and the entire financial system of the world is run through DeFi, it's very natural that investing will also happen through DeFi and through a DAO. And so what drew us to AladdinDAO, I mean, other than we've worked with Sharlyn and Alex for a number of years and really enjoy working with them, is this sort of on-chain structure to allow for effectively counsel to manage investments and into protocols of varying kinds. You can really do a lot with this structure. Was really exciting to us. I think this is going to change the future of investing a lot. We're starting to see some of the early implications of this with AladdinDAO, but I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years there's a lot of people investing through structures, through AladdinDAO or through structures like AladdinDAO. So we're really excited to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Niraj. And Sharlyn, do you want to end with what you think are some of the new possibilities with investment DAOs? Oh, sorry, you're on mute. There we go. There we go.
Yeah. So just add to Alex and Niraj comments about investment DAO. I think just coming from story behind AladdinDAO. So we built this to connect talents across different disciplines, culture, and regions in crypto. And it is a social experience where most brilliant minds in crypto can find interesting projects, research, and make decisions, build community together, given how diverse things are and how fast the space moves. And you think about the cost structure and management issues for a fund to hire an army of world-class experts, right? It's just mission impossible. For most of the VCs, it is just 2 to 3 talents leading the team. But at AladdinDAO, we have 50 top talent running for the office, right? And only DAO can ever do a candidate interview like this. Right? As an open network, so AladdinDAO doesn't really need to manage people, and we only pay for the moments these members contribute and perform. And AladdinDAO is a structure. We can potentially expand to thousands of managers and potentially service billions of users around the world. So we're training a decentralized network of talent. So if the DAO can evolve competitively with the market structure, it will be one of the most intelligent and powerful investment engine in crypto. And also, as the technology continue to lower the information and transaction cost in cyberspace, so many of the advantages of company will diminish. So the backdrop, this will inevitably lead to redesign of organizational structure inherited from industrialism, right? So DAO is really what we see is re-architecturing human society's organizational structure on this new global system. So AladdinDAO is part of this important social experiment. So see things from a broader perspective. So, potentially building the engine for wisdom of crowd as human society is swarming into the crypto world. So it is competition between swarms, not bees in nature. So once the engine becomes, very powerful, and it will be very hard for any individual bees to compete with it. And also the other point I want to make is if you look back to what happened to internet when we had too many web pages out there, we had Google structure information for us. It's a very similar case now. So when we have too many liquidity mining programs and pools coming to the market too quickly, this information needs to be structured as well. So financial assets are quite complicated. So we can't really just rely on machine to do all the assessment. So that's why we built this group of Boule members coming with all different capabilities, perspective, and expertise and to structure this information. And collectively, we can help to minimize information asymmetry and optimize resources allocation for crypto and DeFi world overall. So I think the last point to add is just, throughout the internet times, so all these marketplace businesses built market structure for demand to find supply. And the most brilliant minds from internet have been working on this traffic distribution problem, deciding what information, video, advertisement, merchandise you see next, right? And this has been done in a centralized way and has been the primary business and revenue model for Web2 companies, right? So this traffic distribution only becomes relevant when information chaos is significant enough, right? And this is becoming a very relevant problem to solve in DeFi now. So in decentralized world, who will decide what assets people see next is a $1 trillion question. And this is the problem Aladdin Boule aims to solve. Yeah, so, thanks again for all the Boule candidates, all these, brilliant people joining us on this journey now. Very excited. I'll pass it back to DeFi Dad.
Awesome. Someone a while ago, I can't remember who exactly it was, but they said they described a DAO as it's basically like a virtual club where everybody has some common interest. With a DAO, you tend to have a goal in mind, like there's some problem you're obviously looking to solve, whether or not you govern a protocol, and then you happen to share a treasury in most cases. It made a lot of sense to me that it's like the next evolution of the meetups that dominated our attention the last decade or so, when meetups really blew up. Except now it's like a meetup on steroids, where you can meet up with anyone in the world virtually and coordinate, I think, better thanks to tokens. So Alex, Sharlyn, anything else to add before we move on to Boule candidates?
I'll say, I think one really interesting theme is that, the idea of an investment information sharing club as a DAO has been tried a few times before, and including, the original DAO of 2016, which was in some way like our very early predecessor. And many of you on the call may not remember this, but when it launched, it was immediately the most important application in all crypto. It was the first ICO. It raised $50 million, which I went and looked this at the time. That was about 5 or 6% of all ETH, all the supply of ETH. What 5 to 6% of it or so was over a 1 month fundraising period was locked up in this DAO. And note that today all of DeFi has around 8% of ETH locked in it. And so for maybe only about a month or two ago, did the entirety of DeFi surpass the size of this original DAO. So it's clearly, I think, one of the most popular ideas in crypto. It was really the early killer use case of Ethereum, this way for people to self-organize and gain information. But it was implemented obviously extremely poorly. It was implemented so poorly, it was this massive hack that led to the ETH versus ETH Classic split and fork. And there's a few differences. One, we're non-custodial. We're more about information sharing and curation. It's less centralized. And two, as Sharlyn pointed out too, we have all these game theory innovations. We have these split roles. We have a Boule. It's actually pronounced a Boule, but that's okay. Which is sort of like members of an investment firm. And then we have the token holders, which are like the users. Whereas the DAO had this sort of one member, one vote. It was like mass direct democracy, which in the political sphere never really works. The real innovation is having almost a republic or parliamentary representative system. And today, we were talking, DeFi Dad, we were talking about this before the call. We've never spoken before. And I'm one of the first investors in this project and early contributor. And at least half, way more than half, of the members of the Boule, I've never met or never spoken to before at all. So that's the power of this DAO, right? It's this incredible and diverse group of experts. Many are self-nominated. It's researchers, it's project leaders, And over time, I think the Boule could have hundreds, thousands of people, right? And there'll be more specialized roles. You can imagine that one day the Boule will have like people just for scouting new deals, just a strategist creating investment strategies, or people who are just doing decision making and just doing research. And it'll be like how Bain Capital or something like that has different roles. So I think there's quite a unique opportunity. There's nothing really like AladdinDAO that it exists right now. It's this like massive social experiment at the cutting edge of DeFi and social finance. And the Boule members, they're really at the heart of all of this.
No, absolutely. Also, reminder to anyone, if you haven't thought about this, the end goal here is again more about, let's say, providing a dashboard with opportunities that you can choose from. But at the end of the day, this DAO is not aiming to control funds, which, especially in the regulatory landscape we live in, like, I think that's one of the things I was happy to understand about the grand mission. At the end of the day, folks are going to have to make their own decisions about their own investments, and that's I think a part of the ethos of crypto, is giving people that independence to make their own decisions about what to do with their money whenever they want, 24/7. So, all right, so let's kick off with some of the Boule candidates. vfat, do you want to go first?
Hello, yeah, happy to do so.
You sound great. Yeah, go right ahead. Oh, and sorry, just a quick overview. If you can share a bit about who you are, why you'd make a great candidate, and gosh, do we want to, Sharlyn? Do we want to? Last time we had them give an example of when they had been wrecked to sort of lighten the mood, share some funny stories about that. But I guess we could do that again. I mean, our goal, of course, is, I think, to identify the best risk-adjusted returns. But ironically, I think most of us have experienced firsthand what happens when you hop into something that is riskier than what we'll probably find on the AladdinDAO dashboard.
Yeah, the suggested topic we give to people, including who you are and what's your biggest achievement in DeFi. And why you would excel as Aladdin Boule member, and also any funny story, wreck experience that you want to share. That's a bonus point. But people definitely feel free to go freestyle and just to shed some light from your perspective and experience. And just want to add, vfat has been very important core contributor to AladdinDAO, help us significantly over the course, to bootstrap the network, has been a great friend to the community. Yeah, very honored to have him today. Yeah, please go ahead.
vfat, go right ahead. You can kick off. And the goal here is for each of us to take up about 3 minutes, ideally. So yeah, thanks for coming, and would love to learn more about you, even though I feel like I already know you.
Thank you for having me. So I've been in crypto on and off since about 2013, but didn't really get into it much before the 2017 mania, and then obviously the aftermath of that. But last summer I was using stuff like Celsius and Nexo and that, and I found out about Compound. As it happens, I read this article on the Defiant about leveraged yield farming on Compound, which was written by no other than our host today, and that kicked off my yield farming. Since then, I have found absolutely everything there is to farm. I've done 12,000 transactions on ETH, pretty much all of them to do with yield farming. My main contribution has been my website, which is a fork of, as many of you know, of Yield Farming Info, which was the original. What happened was they stopped adding new websites. I just didn't have the time for it, and I kind of took over. It just happened organically, really. And since then, I have added hundreds upon hundreds of yield farms. Some not as good as the rest, but old farms though. Which brings us to now. I am obviously in a very good position to help as a Boule member, because pretty much every new farm that comes out get in touch with me because they want to get added to my site. So I get to, very often I get to speak to the founders, see what's actually a serious project and not just another copy of whatever. So as to about getting wrecked, that's happened a few too many times to remember, but my biggest one was with X token. That there was really no big sign there to tell that something like that could happen. It's a very good project. The dev is excellent, but you can never be too sure. So it's all about never risking too much. I mean, it was a good amount of money, but it's always a very small percentage. Yeah, I think that's it.
No, it's great to meet you finally. I've really appreciated all the work you've done, and I want to say that the tools that you've worked on have brought so many people into DeFi, or at least help them to identify what yields are, which has been one of the hardest questions to answer over the last few years. So next up, we've got Saneel Sreeni.
Yep, thanks, DeFi Dad. Hey everyone, good to see you. Thanks for coming out. I'm Saneel, currently a researcher at Alkimiya, where we build hash rate products. But I guess my journey in crypto started almost 2 years ago. Was part of my university's crypto organization, Caital Blockchain, and was just developing internal tools for them. Someone sent me a DeFi guide back in last April, and actually some of DeFi Dad stuff later in the summer. Got really hooked. Was reading white paper, research paper every day for that summer, and I thought this was the greatest thing. So around June, July was also when I started entering a few yield farms, entering a few small positions, just because I think these systems were very elegantly designed and I wanted to bet on them. That journey kind of led me to Ploychain, actually working under Niraj, where I was there for almost half a year, mainly on the research and investment team. Also helped out build some data pipelines and strategies for some DeFi strategies, and then left Ploychain, was heading some governance initiatives again at Caital Blockchain before, and also helping with some core protocol work over at Cozy Finance, while continuing to yield farm and slowly start to trade some JPEGs too. And then actually briefly joined as a junior partner over at Dragonfly back in May, and was there pretty much throughout the better half of the summer. But decided, it was time to go build. So ended up joining Alkimiya to build some fairly 0-to-1 derivatives. And I think historically, I had spent most of my time in DeFi as a researcher. I think what Alex, previously said about a lot of those conversations being closed is fairly accurate, right? So it's while there are a few pieces of public research and thoughts that I've put out on podcasts like Block Crunch with Jason Choi, or on the Dragonfly research blog or elsewhere, I think a lot of that nice alpha comes behind closed doors. For example, I think back in September, October, me and one of the other researchers at Ploychain had called the NFT craze before it really taken off, right? But that was something that never really surfaced, something that we didn't really talk about publicly, right? And I think it's really funny because one of the first things that really got me hooked into crypto actually wasn't Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything else. It was actually information markets and numerai. And I was really fascinated by this idea of crowd intelligence and hive intelligence, because there's very, very nice literature in traditional AI where you create some sort of hive intelligence algorithm, and commodities traders actually end up being way more profitable when they share information. So I think, seeing that model work with something like Numerai, where, or Polymarket, right, was really interesting. But the thing, as again mentioned in DeFi and in crypto, is that there's very, very large degrees of information asymmetry, right? So you don't have it like, public markets where everyone has access to the same information and can go trade models with that, right? So I think bringing that to the forefront is something that I'm pretty passionate about, because I think just overall wisdom of the crowd tends to win out in the long run, right? And having been kind of on the venture side, yeah, there is some level of information privilege that you get. I still get to enjoy, even as a researcher at Alkimiya, just talking with my friends or talking with companies I've angel invested or other investors that have angel invested alongside. And that's something I'm really, really excited to share sort of with the community, right? Just bringing the access on like, okay, what are the new protocols? In addition to that, I think also, as I mentioned, background is a researcher primarily in mechanism design, tokenomics and security. So kind of just adding the technical bend on it, being the guy that, yes, we'll sit down and read the white paper and get on call with the team and just grill them about, attack vectors for a while. This is something that I hope to do for all of you. And oh man, getting wrecked. When have we not gotten wrecked? But I think probably the worst one was sometimes you just see an incredibly high APY and you really just like turn your brain off. I remember one day being on Harvest Finance and I saw the basis gold share USDC pool, and like my heart, I knew it was a terrible idea, right? I knew this thing was definitely going to get rugged and go to zero. But you see like 20,000% APY and you're just like, okay, I'll be in and out like 15 minutes. So yeah, when it started LPing that, first like 5-6 hours, you already made $70. It's like, it's going great. And then like I go out to lunch and I come back and someone had already drained the entire like basis gold like token back to zero. And yeah, luckily didn't risk too much money, but that was a great 8 hours of farming. But yeah, excited to be on and hear from the other candidates.
Yeah, Saneel, great to meet you. Yeah, that is such. I feel like I've been experiencing what you just described lately again. It's just we all see those high APYs and we're like, it's too good to be true, right? It's too good to be true, right? Right.
Right.
All right. So yeah, and then my money goes in, and I was like, it was too good to be true. Great. Now I've learned my lesson again. Next up, we have Rodney from Sybil Capital.
Hey everybody, very nice to meet you all, and very honored to be on stage today with so many talented people. A little bit about myself. I initially got into the world of crypto in like 2017, researching Ethereum with some of my classmates while I was in like third year of college. One of my closest friends at the time, he dropped out of school to raise like a bunch of money to start what became the third project to ever join the DeFi Alliance back in the day, with like Dharma and stuff like that. It was called CDX. It was like credit default swaps on Ethereum, which the world was definitely not ready for. Since then, that project has actually pivoted into like what is now SX Network. But at the time, I was super excited, and it kind of allowed for me to take like a pretty deep nosedive into the space and follow it pretty much, I guess, since DeFi's inception. In 2018, I moved to South Korea. I worked with Icon Network at the time. I was gonna basically start an accelerator for them in Toronto under their ICX Station brand, but the token price fell too far, so they couldn't afford to do it anymore. Started $1 million prop fund at the time as well with my twin brother to invest into different crypto projects. Ended up doing really well. I had a pretty big multiple on the fund, but remained in the market until that multiple evaporated almost completely. Pivoted into some traditional venture, worked at Angelus Venture on their venture team. Had the pleasure of working with people like Naval Ravikant, managing his venture portfolio. I worked with like Olive Spearhead, which is Naval's program for first-time fund leads. I also worked with like all of like the YC Demo Day fund leads, and really managed like 150 different micro funds and syndicate leads at once, which was super fascinating, given that a lot of the deal flow that a lot of these people were looking at was in crypto. So I did get quite a lot of exposure to a lot of pretty interesting deals throughout my time there. Spent some time in traditional startup world as an operator, like led operations for like a YC-backed health insurance company for which we raised like $4.5 million. But all the while, I was spending the majority of my free time researching crypto. My biggest achievement probably within the world of DeFi that I can, I guess, like pull back from back in 2019, 2020, I would say was starting to like speculate on how the Ethereum community is going to solve the problem of transaction fees within DeFi. Because I remember seeing like protocols like Augur and a bunch of other protocols that used to have some usage back when transaction fees were pretty reasonable, have all of their on-chain transactions basically evaporate as transaction fees were trending upwards. So I did a bunch of research and backed like protocols like Matic back in 2019, 2020, the beginning of 2020. Since then, after leaving that like one YC startup, I was going to start a crypto fund, but partway through, I actually ended up joining Alex Pack as his junior partner for the crypto fund that I work at now. If I had to go over the biggest time that I've been wrecked probably over the past 12 months, it'd have to be like investing into Iron Finance / Titan at seed. And illiquidly watching that exposure 100x, and then within 5 days from that point of 100xing, literally go to zero. I don't think that there's many projects in DeFi or in crypto in general that have gone to literally zero, but I've had the pleasure of participating in one of those. Apart from that, I mean, I've backed other projects like so SX Network, Portal, YOLO Rect, OMM Balanced, and several other DeFi protocols as well. So I've been pretty active in the space, and personally, I do quite a bit of yield farming. I try not to jump into those super degen pools that like go up to like, you know, the 15K APYs and things like that, because like, you know, I'm pretty conscious of things like inflation, but I'm like always super interested in finding sustainable yields that, you know, can return something in and around, you know, the 40 to 50% plus interest rates sustainably. And I think that's usually where I try to divert my attention. And yeah, working at a crypto venture fund these days allows for me to see a lot of interesting protocols come up. And a lot of these interest rates don't really get ironed out and even until like, I guess the public like really gets to know what's going on. And so I think there's a lot of untapped alpha to being a venture investor within the world of DeFi that I'd love to forward to the greater community of AladdinDAO.
Hey, thanks so much, Rodney. Great to meet you. Next up, we have Chris Maree from UMA.
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Just wanted to say, like, to start off, I'm super excited about AladdinDAO. I think this idea of democratizing access to capital and leveraging the wisdom of the crowd is like really, really exciting. And it definitely could be the next evolution of VC or something in this kind of form. So a bit about me. I have a background in electrical engineering and started mining BTC in like 2012. Kind of moved away from the Bitcoin community because I found it to be pretty toxic. And then I fell down the Ethereum rabbit hole in like late 2016 or so and kind of stuck around from then. I played around with a lot of DeFi projects like back in the early days. I opened like a SAI CDP to buy a laptop because I didn't want to sell my ETH when it was, you know, sub $150, ETH being money and all that stuff back then. And I spent like quite a lot of time after my degree in engineering building out a system for like tokenizing the kilowatt hour. So trying to build like a blockchain based energy trading system. I ended up moving away from that because I realized that at least for the beginning, most of the stuff that's going to actually be impactful is going to rely on completely on-chain information. So stuff that relates to the off-chain world is like kind of difficult, and oracles is a very hard problem. And I started to become very interested in finance. So I went and did a master's in financial engineering because I realized like if I actually want to be impactful within this space, like especially from an implementation perspective, you need to like both understand the technical and the finance side of things. So I went and did that. And after that, I spent about a year and a half leading up until I guess like 2019, just kind of messing around, building like lots of crazy products in DeFi. So I did lots of hackathons, built lots of side projects. There were some startups along the way as well that I exited. Some interesting things were like interest rate swaps that we built on top of compound finance. We built a system for like trading MakerDAO CDPs where you could like unwind CDPs by basically selling them. This was before flash loans were a thing. Obviously, that's a better way of doing it now. We also created a system for like leveraging DAI where you get like 20x leverage on the price of DAI using like a highly leveraged contract for difference. And I also built a product where you could basically take leverage positions on BTC hash rates. So it basically amounts to like synthetic cloud mining contracts, which was really interesting. What I kind of realized though, after building all these things was that like I'm repeating a lot of the same things over and over again. And rather than like rebuilding like a lot of these primitives, like it might be better to actually build some infrastructure and then like try and bundle up a lot of the common problems into like a set of tools. And that was actually like one of the main reasons why I joined UMA, because we're really trying to build like infrastructure to enable scalable financial applications that anyone else can use, right? So at the end of the day, like the goal is to let any developer launch their own synthetic or derivative or financial product that lets you express some kind of opinion on some kind of financial instrument. And at UMA, I'm primarily focused on building out like our actual core smart contract building blocks, as well as like some of the game theory and mechanism design that actually makes sure that these systems work. And I've also got like quite a lot of involvement in like the off-chain infrastructure that we have. So like we have liquidation bots and arbitrage and these kinds of things that I'm also involved in. And yeah, so when I'm not working at UMA, like at the moment, I do a lot of yield farming, as everyone else I'm sure does, and I run some arbitrage bots. I do some stuff with flash bots as well. So yeah, my experience is obviously more from like the building side, whereas I think a lot of other people are from the VC side. And my biggest Rect experience is not actually that bad. Like I generally have been pretty careful and tend to like mostly read the code of things before I put my money in them. But the biggest Rect would be I lost some money on the BSC casino, definitely messing around with some shitcoins. And I actually had a wallet from like early days of CryptoPunks that had 10 CryptoPunks in it, and I lost the mnemonic. So that hurts. So I wrecked myself more than getting wrecked. But in any case, what I think I would bring to the DAO and like my main value add would be like understanding from a technical perspective, like a lot of these different systems, and having been around the block a little bit with DeFi, like being able to evaluate like the quality of projects. So I guess at like at some level, like a non-audit but audit kind of thing. So like have some sort of opinion on the security of things, and also understanding like interoperability between things. And I guess lastly, like if there was an environment where we needed to automate things or build bots to actually like automate part of AladdinDAO's stack, like I could definitely lend some input on that and help out where that would be needed.
Hey, thanks so much, Chris. Great to meet you. And next up, we'll have HC from Multicoin.
Thanks, DeFi Dad. A quick intro to myself. My name is HC. Similar to Sharlyn, I came from a more traditional finance background. Worked at UBS for a couple of years, primarily in IBD, equity research and data analysis. Now I'm making investments at Multicoin Capital. We manage a few $1 billion across two funds. So the venture fund and the hedge fund, one is in primary market, the other is the more liquid fund. One of our edges is actually to leverage our expertise and information in both markets because both funds are managed by the same investment team. So like my biggest achievement, like there are a lot of OGs in this call. Like I only joined crypto last year, so I kind of want to share like the reason why I wanted to become an investor in the first place. The biggest reason is to help entrepreneurs and developers. So one of my favorite part working at Multicoin Capital is actually to help our portfolio companies on a regular basis. Remember, my first assignment at Multicoin was to come up with an algorithm that sets the K, so XY equals K, for the virtual AMM for one of our portfolio companies. So like things could get very messy and tag at times, and we tend to go very deep in the development of the product, and also help our portfolio companies in terms of PR, legal, product design, product launch and tokenomics, etc., etc. So that's one of the ways I can help as a Boule member at AladdinDAO, just to bounce some ideas and support the DeFi protocols and some liquidity mining opportunity as well. So how I can contribute, like, this is primarily what I do every single day at Multicoin. We look at different opportunities across the markets and like look at liquidity mining opportunities and make the most return and alpha. So that's number one. Number two, like I think my position is pretty unique. So being a Chinese myself, I'm very connected with the local crypto people in Asia, but also I work at one of the biggest Western funds in crypto. So just bridging the information asymmetry across the East and West definitely can help AladdinDAO as well. And I wouldn't categorize myself as like 100% Degen comparing with a lot of the retail minds on the call, but more of a thesis-driven investor. So I like to help projects in their different stages of their life cycle. So from idea generation to fundraising, product launch, later stage growth, etc. And I think that's the beauty of AladdinDAO with the wisdom of crowds. Like we have the great minds from different backgrounds. Like we have Degen, we have longer term investors, and so super excited to see what the future holds for AladdinDAO, and would love to be a part of this journey. That's it. Back to you, DeFi Dad. Thanks.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to meet you. Next up, we have someone I'm gonna not attempt to pronounce your name. Forgive me, but it's a Wangxi.
Yeah.
Could you go ahead and introduce yourself? Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, DeFi Dad. I'm Wangxi. Very glad to join this online party, and I'll give you a brief intro of myself and my company. I'm partners of Bixin Ventures since 2017, 4 years ago. I'm very early investors of many blockchain projects like Arviv, Mina, Algorand, XDAI, D-Trade, EPNI, Star Atlas, etc. Before working at Bixin, I worked at ICBC headquarters, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, also traditional finance background. As of farming experience, I'm one of the earliest farmers for Wi-Fi, Curve, Uniswap, and have been very active DeFi farmers since last year, DeFi summer. Also, Bixin Ventures' mission is to invest in and build crucial infrastructure that enables the future of open finance. And our investment team works alongside founders to provide guidance and expertise for growth in Asia. And also, Bixin Ventures is a subsidiary to Bixin Group. Bixin Group is one of the largest wallet providers in Asia, with over 1 million registered users. And the founding members of Bixin Group are among the earliest adopters of Bitcoin and its ecosystem. For the value I can bring to AladdinDAO, I think maybe I am big fan of game theory and love mechanism design. And I think that's crucial and very important in DeFi nations, also in crypto. Yeah, I think that's a brief intro of me. Thank you.
Hey, sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to reconnect my mic. Okay, there we go. It's back on. All right. So thanks so much, and great to meet you. Next up, we have Forgiven from Conflux.
Hello, guys. This is Forgiven from Conflux. Thanks, DeFi Dad. Thanks, Sharlyn, for the opportunity to share some thoughts with everybody here. my Chinese name is Yuanjie, but I prefer people to call me Forgiven from the Western world because it's easier, although the name's a bit weird, but I'm used to that. So I used to work traditional finance world. I used to work for a hedge fund New York, and then I worked for endowment at UNC Chapel Hill, and then I went back to China. And later I joined a startup, which is a public chain project called Conflux. I did fundraising for Conflux. So later I turned into more or less a managerial role for Conflux. But because of my background, my work experience, I still love finance, and it's actually very surprising that finance become the very important part of the application in blockchain world. So I pick up my passion for finance in DeFi, and while in the same time, it's definitely kind of like a direction that I should explore for for the public chain I work for. But to be honest, it's very pathetic to work in the public chain network, which is not in the camp of Ethereum, right? It's not easy to gain support. And for me, I have to learn the basic knowledge of the underlying infrastructure of public chain itself, but also have to learn DeFi projects. So I try to participate as many DeFi projects as I can, but in the end of the day, I'm a finance dude. So in terms of rack experience, I'm almost in every victim talent group of those rack DeFi projects. Okay, so that's why I'm super familiar with kind of the process. Once a project got hacked, you got a victim massaging from the project. You got those hacker psychology gaming. If the pot is very big, right? People try to game with the hacker, and then if the money, you can't get the money back, you got the restructuring of the DeFi projects. And then you got IOU tokens from the DeFi projects, and eventually those IOU tokens got forgotten and your money is gone, right? So in this farmer's world, you have scientists, which they know how to monitor data on chain. They know how to look at code to check it's safe. And then they can, do like farm and sell down the farm harvest automatically. As institutions or capitalists, you have big stack, you can do big stack bully, where you don't care transaction fees. But for ordinary people, that is generally not the case, right? For me, like I kind of do it for research purposes. I don't put a lot of money in, but eventually got wrecked. So one time, like Sharlyn talked to me about this idea of AladdinDAO, and it makes sense to me given my finance background, right? For ordinary people, you may not be able to participate in a hedge fund, quant fund, right? But you can still choose Berkshire, right? You cannot choose to invest along with Three Arrows or Sam or maybe jump trading, but you can choose to invest along with me, right? Along with 49 other, great ball candidates here. So you don't have you have the kind of the crypto version of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger here, but even more powerful and more, more wisdom here. So that's all I'm gonna say. Thanks, bye. Back to you, DeFi Dad.
Hey, thanks so much. Next up, we have Ruby from Incuba Capital.
You can call it Incuba. It's actually a Japanese term. It's pretty similar to incubation, but we call that in Japanese term. Yeah, so thank you everyone for having me here. It's really great to meet everyone here. And before I get into the introduction to myself, I just want to echo a bit what Sharlyn said before about DAOs, because I think I was one of the several persons who really, really loved DAOs back to 2019 and the ages. So I believe that the most thing I love about crypto and DAOs is people could get the privilege to enjoy living as an individual independently out from a traditional organization. And we could enjoy to living in the freedom to being who we are as the original is, but still at the same time contribute to organization to a positive sum game. So that's why I really love the idea about DAOs. And some introduction about myself is that I joined the industry in late 2017, where was actually the last peak. And I started my journey here was an infrastructure level project who built their own blockchains. And I was helping them with their ecosystem expansion and community governance. And that's why I get to know the idea of DAOs and decentralized collaboration and started to get really fascinated into that. And so the first thing after I left the project was to dive into the DAO community, like Aragon or DAO Stack or Moloch, which people talk about most back to that time. And with the support of my friend Daniel, who actually did the first DAO focus events in China called DAO Fest Shanghai in 2019. And we introduced the concept of DAOs and a little bit on DeFi, because some of the DeFi is already working in the DAO way, like MakerDAO, to the Chinese community back to them. And it was at that event that I get to know more about DeFi. So a little bit about me before blockchain is that I actually worked with TriFi for 5 years, where I work as an investment banker with Stan and CCC in Hong Kong. And what we do is that we help those PLC companies to come to the offshore capital markets to raise funds. Normally, those projects always involve super heavy paperwork and regulatory negotiations. And I think that those processes need to be and should to be improved by technologies. So that's when I first came up with the idea of smart contract and DeFi. I just feel, oh, this is the thing. This is the right thing we need to follow. And one more interesting thing here is that I just came back to Hong Kong recently, and quite a few of my TriFi friends just came to me very frequently asking me about what is DeFi, what is blockchain, what is Ethereum, what is smart contract. So I guess that we might not be that far away from really innovating the traditional finance system with the powerful DeFi and the technology and the DAO collective wisdom we have right now. And something about me now is that I'm currently leading a fund called Incuba Alpha, and with our community outreach in Japan and China. So that's where we got the name Incuba. And we focus on DeFi, NFT, and DAOs ever since 2019. And my personal account started to trading on DeFi was MakerDAO and DAI. I do some keeper stuff with DAI and earn some of the fees over there. And we started to farm and trade heavily into projects like Compound, Balancer, Wire, and Curve, Sushi, as soon as they launched their liquidity mining, basically from the DeFi summer over there. And our farming approach is more like farm and hold. That's how we make money back to the DeFi summer, and we still stick to it till now. So we're not that Degens. We do not only look into short-term APIs, but also looking deeply into what the fundamental and the long-term potentials of the projects would like to be. And we would follow that rules and have calls and follow what's happening with the discourse in the community, and to find the right timing to rebalance our farming positions. And this actually requires us to have a deeper research and understanding about market and product and the team. And that's the part I really hope that I can work more with the AladdinDAO community here. And so in AladdinDAO, I really hope that we could research and learn together with the community and use our understanding to locate those good alphas and actually help those good projects and teams to bootstrap their product at the beginning. And also, I hope to still continue my passion on DAOs, by contributing to what the AladdinDAO would like to have with governance mechanism or voting system, or what the DAO tools we need to find and try to use it. And I do have some maybe not success experience over there, but those experience helped me to know better about what's happening with the DAO platforms. And also, we are a member of Flamingo DAO, which is a very fantastic DAO that focuses on NFT actually. So we hope that we could play a good bridge here to link the very good NFT and DeFi DAOs together to find some more interesting synergies here. Yeah, I think I'm all here. Bye.
Awesome. Great to meet you, Ruby. And thanks for being here. And next up, we've got Ryan Kim from Hashed.
Hello, this is Ryan from Hashed. Hashed is the I guess almost only fund in Korea, only crypto fund, and we started from 2016, and we were just individual investors, but we with 2017, the crazy year for crypto, no, there were kimchi premium, so we invited many crypto projects to Korea, and we introduced those to high-profile people in Korea, such as VCs, entrepreneur, and conglomerates. And with that, we made a very good crypto community here. And from last year, we raised first LP fund, and we engaged with many traditional companies. So we want to be positioned as a bridge between traditional companies and crypto finance. And for me, my major is EE. So before crypto investor, I was a data scientist and also a digital circuit engineer. And I founded my company and I sold my company to unicorn company in Korea. So I, as the entrepreneur and engineer, I advised many crypto projects. And now Hash investing very actively into metaverse and DeFi. In 2019, we invested in Axie Infinity and the Sandbox. And now they're a huge unicorn. So at the time, we thought the dApps will come to this market, but no, 2019 and 2020 were not that great year for them, but 2021 was very successful for them. So now we are incubating many NFT projects in Korea because Korea has very good research about K-pop and gaming and movie and cartoon, etc. So we want to use them to bring those resources and IP to NFT world. And at the ending, we want to make a DeFi protocol with that NFTs. And the biggest the achievement in DeFi, we invested in Terra at the beginning. We are the biggest investor of Terra. So now a lot of the Ecco projects on Terra are coming, such as Mirror, Anchor, and the Pylon. Many projects are coming, so we are incubating and supporting all projects on Terra. So that's I think the biggest achievement. And the React experience was last year I invested in the Apple Finance, which the ticker was AAPL, and I invested in them, and I thought that was a kind of scam, so I pulled the money out from 2 days later, and 5 days later that they got wrecked. So actually I didn't get wrecked, but that experience was quite impressive because 90% of the DeFi was scammed. So I realized I should be very careful. But after that, I met a lot of wonderful entrepreneurs in DeFi world. So we invested in many the DeFi projects, such as like UMA and Linear and DYDX and SandLabs. And now I'm very excited to be a part of AladdinDAO. And I have been known Sharlyn for a while when since she was in the the Chinese central bank, and I think she was very impressed to me, and I really want to work with her. And now I'm very happy to join AladdinDAO. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Ryan. Great to meet you. Next up, we have Bowen from DDEX.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so a little bit of background about me. So I joined the Ethereum community back in 2016 when the DAO hack was just happening. And I know one of the Ethereum Foundation members, that's Toya, and she just told me that so Ethereum is a world computer that you need some Ethereum to run contracts so you can pay the gas. So that's why. So I thought that was interesting. So I should buy some Ethereum when I need to run contract in the future. I need some inventory. And I started my career after graduation from NYU in 2017. I work at Zhen Fund, which is one of the largest angel investment funds in China that's focusing in crypto. And back in the days, so I was doing research on both for the Asian deals and also the deals in US. I was in the Palo Alto for the second half year of 2017. And after that, I co-founded DDEX, which is it was a directory layers for limit order decentralized exchange for spot trading, and then we forked CRX protocol because we see there's many limitations with that protocol at the moment, and we started Margin DEX in 2019, and then I started my own kind of like venture studio, which is now called Smarty Lab, kind of like doing DeFi farming since the DeFi summer last June, starting with Wang in the very beginning, and Curve, Kimchi, Golden Kimchi, and Severe. So I have been farming for maybe about 100 projects. So like my daily routine was like I go on Rect or vfat.tools, and basically kind of like going through the new farm every single day. So I don't have a really high Degens score because I keep everything very discreet. So I farm each of the farm with a single wallet address. So like I only have like maybe like 100 score on each of the wallets. So I really hope that Degens score will be able to combine all my wallets together, so give me a high score. So I have been investing, or just mining all of the DeFi tokens, you name it, actually, in the field. Many of the people have been mentioning all the farms that have been participating in the last 12 months. So I'm just not gonna point names anymore. And I think the one thing that I can contribute to the AladdinDAO is that I bring very different perspective in terms of we do farming in a different way. Is that we don't sell the we see the farming tokens as a governance token, and also we see it as a kind of like voting power. That we believe that, like let's say like in Curve after 4 years emission, that it's going to be essential for people to have voting power, that for which kind of pool, which of trading pairs that they're adding on, or which of chains that they should be implementing on. And so I've been talking with Sharlyn for quite a lot of time. That like my vision about AladdinDAO is that by holding the voting token or the governance token in long term, that we can outperform the so-called pump and down farmers in the field, and we can really be a strong voting community within the other DeFi project, can give it a say in the community to make proposal, make change, make impact, and also speaking out for many of the DeFi participants that that's what we see in the future about DeFi and how they should evolve. And yeah, so I think that, so I was the founding member of the WBTC DAO, and back in the days, DDEX was the top 3 minting participants for WBTC with Spiegel and Compound and Kyber. And back in the days, it was a really quite time-consuming process for mint WBTC on chain. And I think AladdinDAO in the future can do more of the initiatives in kind of like bringing the assets from various blockchain agnostic layer 1 projects, and we can kind of like aggregate all the liquidity together, aggregate all the TVL together, And my long-term vision is that since all the tokens is on chain, and if we can get all the token approval on chain, and we can kind of formulating a proxy contract that can be able to provide liquidity that's going to be larger than any kind of like a central exchange we see at the moment, and hopefully that vision can be realized in the near future. And I also have many of I also have many of the project that's in the very early age. Sometimes it's just a stack, or sometimes it's just a couple hundred lines of contract. But I would love to share the insights I learned from the field and from the farming to everyone in the AladdinDAO, and also learn the insight from each of the DAO members. Yeah, that's
Bowen,
pretty much it about me.
Thanks. Awesome, Bowen. Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks so much. Next up, we have Chaojijun, and please forgive me if I mispronounce that, from Benmo Club.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, welcome.
OK，我只能用中文讲啊。这个我叫超级金，然后的话呢是那个2012年开始这个玩比特币，然后
等一下，我跟大家说一下哈。So he's going to present in Chinese, and we're going to help with translation. Chaojijun is a top DJ in China, and he has over like 200K followers in Chinese social media. 超级君讲吧。
OK， 那个我是2012年开始玩比特币，然后也是创建了2013年的话呢，作为联合创始人创建了那个必信钱包啊，前面有我的一个必信的一个朋友在聊这个事情。那个后面2017年的话呢，因为随着这个加密猫跟那个 DApp 的兴起的话，我就开始就专注在这个 DApp 领域里面的一个探索吧，所以当时的话也是创建了那个本末社区啊，就创建了是本末社区2017年，然后就带领这个小伙伴们一起来探索这个区块链上的一些生态。从 DApp 后面到了去年的话呢，DeFi 的流动性挖矿开始的话，我们也就做这个 DeFi 挖矿的这个布道跟这个培训跟这个交流我目前的话，本末社区的话呢，应该是国内最大的这个挖矿的交流社区了啊。然后现在因为它是一个付费社区它现在也有接近2700元在里面啊。我们挖的矿的话就很多了，就从整个 DeFi 流动性挖矿开始到现在就是所有的矿我们基本都挖过啊，也都在挖是。然后呢所以我觉得那个吴老师搞的这个阿拉丁的话，其实跟我那个其实有点挺像的，挺合适的啊，挺合适的，所以过来支持一下。然后同时的话呢，除了我做这个社区的话呢，同时还跟朋友的话呢，就是搞了一个 Wangxi 的钱包啊。Wangxi 钱包，然后现在 Wangxi 钱包就是作为 DeFi 的钱包的话，应该我不知道国外的这个用的人怎么样啊。在国内的话，基本是这个普及的，应该是国内的第一大这个 DeFi 钱包。主要是做了一点小工作吧。然后对于我自己本人的话呢，我平时的工作也就是 DeFi 挖矿，然后第二的话就是教这个社区的人去 DeFi 挖矿，然后作为双方的交流我跟昨天神鱼那个社区的话，其实也有点像 就是也所有大大小小所有的DeFi的安全事件的话，我们也都积极参与啊，给予了预警，然后也给予了追踪啊，解决我们也做这些牵线。然后我自己本人的话呢，也是有一些公链啊，或者说交易所的这个 DeFi 的这个编外顾问吧啊，这是做一点小工作啊。我就因为我英语没有讲那么流利啊，今天就讲到这里，感谢诸位。
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Shenwei. I'll be translating for Chaojijun today. So Benmo Block is a paid DeFi community in China, in which many advanced blockchain players are actively dwelling. The community was established in 2017 by Super Jim, aiming to catch up with the development of blockchain, from off-chain arbitrage to on-chain dApp arbitrage, node arbitrage to DeFi mining. It's currently the largest DeFi community in China, with blockchain investors who have the strongest skills and capitals. According to incomplete stats, the mining fund of the community are as high as billions of US dollars. Most mainstream DeFi protocols have presence in the Benmo community members. And the core leader of the community, Mr. Wang, who's Chaojijun, is the most famous Bitcoin KOL with 170K followers in China on Weibo with the username Super Bitcoin. Starting his Bitcoin investment journey in 2012, he's the most influential dApp and DeFi evangelist in China. He's currently the advisor of both Boule Mining Pool and Bixin. He founded Benmo community in 2017 and made it the most active community in dApp industry. He then led the community to focus on DeFi yield farming in 2020. Nowadays, the community has grown rapidly, significantly influencing the DeFi field and becoming an essential focus of the Chinese SEX. Furthermore, he's really enjoyed Aladdin because it's very similar to what he's doing. He has also made some wallets such as Wangxi wallet, which is the largest wallet in China. And right now he's focusing on DeFi mining and teaching the community how to mine, which is very similar to Discuss Fish. And he's also the advisor of some on-chain company. That's it. If there's anything else that Sharlyn would like to add.
It's great. Let's
okay.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to have you. So next up is Chao Wang.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, there we go. Hey, welcome.
Cool. It's a great honor to join this community call. I'm Chao Wang, founder of Empower Labs. Empower Lab is a community-driven organization focused on research and incubation on DeFi, DAO, and the metaverse. I started by Bitcoin in 2013. At that time, I worked in an IT service company, managing a $30 million budget. I was thinking of moving my career to crypto, but I didn't make the call since I'm not confident enough about it. Back to my IT service role, my BU had a small innovation center where I put some resource to follow the latest technology. But in 2016, I started to lead them to learn about blockchain. We built a small team and eventually worked with Microsoft together and delivered a POC project to a national bank in China. Last of the time, I started to buy Ether. I think my team was gonna need that as gas, but I don't know how to handle this within the company's financial framework. So I just bought it by myself and gave it to the team for free. Well, it's only $10 per Ether at that time. And it turned out the gas only cost me a very small part of this Ether, and most of them are left in my wallet until today and give me a very good return. More importantly, by learning about those emerging innovations in the blockchain world, I'm finally confident about crypto and its future. So several months later, I resigned and joined BitPie Wallet as partner and COO. BitPie Wallet is a major crypto wallet and backed by top investors, including CMBI. and that is how I met Sharlyn. We had millions of users all over the world. During my 3 years at BitPay Wallet, we tried to bring as many scenarios as possible to our users and talk to a lot of crypto teams almost every day. Infrastructure, debt, CeFi, DeFi. So one of my daily work was to do basic evaluation about their project and the team. Are they innovator or speculator or even scammer? So I'm also an early DeFi user and use farmers. Starting from Compound, I used to log a major part of my crypto asset in all kinds of smart contract and get good profit from it. I don't have any serious Rex experience, part because of my cautiousness and part because of luck. The only near Rex experience was from AladdinDAO. I put 500 Ether there and the protocol got hacked. Luckily, the hacker returned everything, so I got my funds back. Then I got a special airdrop by experiencing this. So it turned out to be a very special mining experience. I do meet a lot of users and friends who got wrecked, mainly because they don't have enough information and knowledge to do project evaluation. So I was constantly thinking how to help them to avoid this. We attempt to make some guides for users in the wallet, but it didn't work well. One reason is we don't have enough talent to make guide in this complicated world. Another reason is it's probably not right to do so in such a centralized way. There will be bias and ignorance. Instead, using the power across the entire community to do research and validation is a much better idea. So that is why I'm excited about AladdinDAO, and that is why I want to be involved in, leverage my experience to contribute to the community. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Great to meet you. And lastly, I'm sorry, not lastly, next up, we have Grant Stenger.
Hey guys, I'm Grant. I'll just quickly run through a little bio here. So I'm Grant, and I did a lot of cryptography and a lot of machine learning stuff growing up at the Berkeley Math Circle. But I really got into crypto in about 2016 when I met Richard Crabe, actually at a poker tournament down in LA, which is super fun. And so he really sort of like took me under his wing and introduced me to a lot of interesting people in the crypto space. I interned at Maree in 2016 and had interests broadly in machine learning, quant finance, and crypto. And so that was sort of a very good introduction for me there. I definitely do think the model of sort of like crowdsource information, even similar to sort of like what we're trying to work on here, is quite strong. And I think there are a lot of interesting application spaces there. So after working at Maree, I sort of like continued to have more of a machine learning and quant itch while sort of like keeping eyes towards crypto. I ended up working at a hedge fund down in the Bahamas, I think that next year, and then was most recently at Jane Street this past summer, doing some equities research, which was quite interesting. And then this past spring, I was at Ploychain as a research intern, doing some systematic trading research, particularly on crypto derivatives and just exploring DeFi broadly. So that was also quite interesting. So yeah, I definitely have more of like a quant and ML background, but I've definitely been thinking a lot about cryptography sort of more deeply and a lot of these DeFi protocols. And so I have been basically spending this past summer really, just reading white papers and playing around with protocols and talking to founders and sort of like building across a bunch of different verticals, which I'm happy to talk about. Thinking a lot about NFTs and DAOs with respect to sort of in-person communities is sort of like one vertical that I've been super interested in. So, I've built a lot in sort of like the people to vector space. And so you could think about like, personality embeddings or any of these sort of like high resolution embeddings of people, and a lot of like traditional recommendations come through social graph work. But imagine if you can know a lot about a person through, a simple example is just looking at like your Twitter feed or something like that. You can almost do like a tweet to vec sort of embedding and sort of like like recommend sort of like-minded, Twitter people who are sort of tweeting about related things. And so if you get really good at this like high resolution embedding, you can match people either romantically or platonically, or people to job, or people to, you know, sort of like community. You can even have like DAO recommendations or something like this. Like, hey, you know, you are sort of, you know, doing a lot of interesting DeFi stuff. Like, hey, you can sort of have almost like a top of funnel sourcing mechanism for, you know, AladdinDAO or something like this. If you sort of build high resolution, embeddings of people that sort of like aggregate across a lot of that. Another thing that I've been thinking a lot about is TWAM stuff. And so, you know, potentially adding like a privacy layer to TWAM, but even more broadly, I think that, you know, as we've seen, you know, the most capital efficient yield farming really does happen through aggregating, you know, several yield farming platforms. And so I think we're going to see like optimal execution is not going to be built on, you know, singularly like Uniswap or just any sort of like centralized exchange or whatever. It's going to be sort of like aggregated execution across a bunch of different exchanges. I think that that's what optimal execution is going to look like. And so thinking about sort of how to source liquidity and sort of compare them across, you know, DEXs and centralized exchanges, AMMs and limited order books, and sort of like trying to aggregate that all together for sort of optimal execution. I think that's something I've been thinking a lot about. In terms of being wrecked, I got wrecked in the pickle and the popsicle hacks, which was kind of interesting and fun. Also been thinking a lot about optimal liquidity provision on Uniswap. Spent a lot of time going through that, thinking about like ZKPs and homomorphic encryption stuff for sort of private trustless computation, and, you know, playing around with some of the MEV stuff and thinking about, you know, synthetic assets and oracles and custom hedging products, which it sounds like you know, coming up with good, you know, derivatives for, you know, mining or you know, just basically creating custom products for different peoples in the ecosystem are all pretty interesting to me. So that's just you know, sort of a quick dump about some of the things that I've been thinking about. And yeah, super interested to meet everyone and join the community. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Grant. That's great introduction. And welcome to AladdinDAO. Very excited to have you. So next one, we're going to have Adam Cochran. Go ahead.
Hello, Adam Cochran here, managing partner of Cinnamon Ventures. Any of you who know me in the space probably know me for my ridiculously long, overly wordy Twitter threads that hopefully instill some occasional value. I've been in crypto since late 2013, early 2014, when I worked at a Bitcoin exchange here in Canada. I also did some of the initial community management for Dogecoin on Reddit, which was really cool back then, but should now probably work against me given what Dogecoin has become over the years. Before all that, my career was in the marketing and corporate development strategy side, really focused on highly technical and mostly financial products. My goal in this career was to kind of work with these big financial entities like banks and traditional exchanges, understand their new complicated products, and figure out how you bring them to the market, make them accessible to the mainstream in a way that they can really understand. So this is something that set me up really well for the crypto space, as it made me kind of above average at figuring out what's a good potential product for the long term and a viable business. Thinking about adding value in the AladdinDAO, you know, I think in the DeFi space, there are really 4 different types of investors, and there's a range of players within each of those that overlap, but they're all likely necessary for the success of this DAO. And you've got the Degens who make their money on these high risk, high turnover cultural trends. You've got classic VC firms and these experienced VCs with their massive bankrolls make money by casting a wide net. You've got the finance guys who've run highly optimized trade desks. And then you've got these operators. And the operators are the investors who've worked on different parts of the business. They roll up their sleeves and get involved. And because they can get involved deeply and understand the business, they know what the risks are and what to look for and what's going to be successful. I think most operators in this space are really experienced Solidity and financial engineers because that's one of the largest hurdles in this space. I don't fall into that category. I'm a minority on the operator side where I'm technical enough to dabble in Solidity, but my specialty is looking at the potential to turn a protocol into a product and then into a business. And I think it's that lens that has given me my edge in the space. I also think it's something that's probably underrepresented in most communities here and that could end up being underrepresented as a lens in this DAO, where we have a lot of great technical and traditional finance talent, but not necessarily the talent outside of that in the other forms of operation. So I think that could bring an important balance to the Boule Council. Thinking about my largest success in DeFi, even though I've made a lot of good money by just setting up chain alerts to try and catch new farms when they get deployed in the first couple of days, I think one of my largest successes overall that I'm most proud of is, helping to save SushiSwap. So many of you may remember that SushiSwap was initially rugged and abandoned by its creator, who eventually returned the fund. But it left SushiSwap in a bad way. And myself, a number of community members, a number of VCs and developers all jumped in to volunteer and help save SushiSwap. I actually ended up taking 2 weeks off of everything else I was doing at the time and helped to organize the community, build the first help docs, and sat in the Discord for like 15 hours a day just answering support questions from angry users. By the time I became a multi-sig holder in Sushi for that first year, I'd sold off all of my Sushi and turned down some grants to make sure I could be a neutral multi-sig holder. But as an early farmer of Sushi, being able to save it and being able to have a community take over a product that wasn't initially their own was a big benefit to me, as well as everybody else who was farming Sushi very early. And now that I'm no longer a multi-sig holder, that decision still kind of pays dividends as I farm a lot of the projects in the Sushi Onsen. And that's something that wouldn't have existed had all of these volunteers not come together to kind of save this project. And I think that's a real power of the space, this ability to harness decentralized and passionate communities. As far as my biggest wrecked moment, I've been lucky, other than Sushi, to have avoided any rug pull farms, usually just by looking at the code and avoiding anything that's an egregious fork. So my biggest wreck was actually just in derivatives and deciding to short EOS at $10 this last cycle. And it wasn't that I was wrong in that decision. It was just I was right at the wrong time. And it's one of those cases where the old adage that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent came true. And I think it serves as a really good reminder that price and fundamentals can be two very distinct things, which is important for us when we're looking at farms, that a good API or a good token price may not necessarily be a stable farm long term. At the end of the day, I don't think the fundamentals on that bet were wrong, just mistimed and balanced out by other things. I think that covers all the questions we were asked, but I also just want to note that the concept of this project is something that I'm really excited for, as I truly believe we're still so early in crypto that it's this non-zero sum outcome, where if this industry is a success, broad stream, then there's room for lots of projects and for early adopters to make money. So I'm glad to see that there's this project where we're trying to capture that core ethos and tap into all this knowledge and make it accessible, as well as tap into what's truly a worldwide DeFi community. There's very few projects that have had such broad exposure in both the Eastern and Western markets. And I think there's too large of a divide there. And the ability to bridge those two worlds and bring that knowledge and exposure together is something really special. So I look forward to the potential of being involved in the project and sharing my insights and making this community a success.
Thank you so much, Adam, for the introduction. And I think as you pointed out, so AladdinDAO is a truly global community from the very beginning, and where East meet the West. So next coming up, we have Leo from HECO. So Leo is the head of HECO. HECO, just for people's background, it's a holding smart chain. So they have a very dominant market share in China market. So welcome, Leo. We'll
好的。
do translation.
好的，谢谢 Shelly。那我也说中文了，然后我还做了一个简单的 PPT， 那麻烦帮我投放一下。好的，大家好，我是那个HECO的负责人六苏，然后今天非常开心能够在这里这个跟大家去交流，然后也这个非常感谢这个邀请，然后可以参与到这个AladdinDAO的这个讨论当中，然后呢这个简单的汇报一下这个就是分享一下 HECO 的这个相关的情况，这个麻烦翻一下页。对，然后为了更好的表述这个HECO 一些消息，所以就是我做了一个简单的一个 PPT 然后HECO 是一个呢这个高性能的一个这个公链其实也谢谢刚才 Shelly 的一个介绍然后呢这个现在呢有一个这个相关的数据的一个发展麻烦下一页。然后 HECO 以这个它自己的这个高性能和这个稳定性和安全性为建厂在这个现在的这个整个 DeFi 的这个发展的浪潮当中呢，这个 HECO 的这个性能和这个相关的安全性还是被这个行业所称道的啊。然后目前来说呢，HECO 上线大概217天，然后呢总的这个地址数有1000万以上啊，然后呢这个平均 TPS 在这个123。然后呢，这个总的这个交易的笔数有4亿笔这个左右，对，然后可以大概分享一下，就是 HECO 本身的这个一些相关的资源包的这个情况，对，麻烦下一页。对，HECO 其实有自己的一个这个投资的这个基金，可以用来投资这个一些的相关的项目啊，所以也是非常希望说可以跟这个各位一起交流这个相关的行业的前沿和一些优质的一些标的啊，也愿意去参与到一些项目的一些这个投资或者 grant 当中。然后另外一部分呢，就是HECO 有自己的这个合作伙伴的一个矩阵啊，从这个相关的这个活跃的这个审计机构啊，到这个麻烦下一页。到相关的这个国际的一些这个交易所啊，不管是1线的、2线的，还是说这个去中心化的交易所啊，都有比较齐全的一个合作的方式啊。包括其实我们也针对这个麻烦再下一页。另外呢，我们对这个现在的整个 DeFi 行业的基础设施有比较齐全的一个合作的方式啊，不管是中文的还是英文的这个从钱包到交易所到这个行情的网站到这个相关的媒体都有比较齐全的一个合作方式，算是给这个相关的开发者提供这个比较齐全的一个服务。这是说我们在 DeFi 相关的这个部分为开发者提供的一些支持。然后在这个下面这个部分呢，其实我们最近在重点发力的一个板块，麻烦下一页。这个重点发力在于这个就是我们认为是 gaming 和 DeFi 的结合的一个这个部分，所以其实我们做了比较多的事情在这个板块啊。然后麻烦下一页。麻烦再下一页。对，我们其实做2个大的比较主要的事情吧。第一就是我们组建了一个这个导师的一个这个 mentorship 的一个联盟，所以其实是跟这个Coin98包括这个AladdinMocha一起去 grant 和投资这个一些头部的这个 GameFi 的一些应用。另外一部分呢，就是我们其实做了一个$100的一个这个grant 的一个这个reward pool， 所以其实也是这个希望说可以去给这个 GameFi 这个赛道去提供一些我们自己的一些支持。对，然后这个业务的分享主要是这些，然后剩下呢其实表达一些说我自己对于这个这次机会的一个这个珍惜吧所以其实我特意做了这个 PPT， 就是因为说我其实非常期待和这个非常憧憬说可以跟更多的这个 DeFi 的开发者和这个这些优秀的这个机构一起去交流，包括其实我们也愿意去做出 HECO 或者说我们所代表的这个一部分的中心化交易所的一些资源去支持更多的这个优质的这个协议的一个发展。对，然后呢最后其实也再次感谢吧，就是这个那个整个的这个DeFi Dad 或者说还有就是吴老师，包括这个邀请的高超哥，对，然后后面其实也是非常期待说可以跟大家有更多的形式的和频次的交流。好，我就这些，谢谢。
Hi guys, so I'll quickly summarize what Leo just said. So he introduced about the HECO ecosystem. HECO is offers efficient and affordable on-chain experience. Some of the stats of HECO includes they have more than 400 million total transaction and is live on mainnet for more than 200 days now. HECO also offers a lot of great resources such as investment fund, and they work with top-tier audit agencies such as Slowmist, and they also include a lot of exchange on HECO such as Aprobit, Buybox, and many more. So right now, HECO is expanding into the sector of GameFi, and they offer a mentorship program to help bootstrap, to help new project to support new user acquisition and growth. And that's it for his presentation. Lastly, he said that he's really grateful to have this opportunity to work with a lot of the great people in DeFi. That's it.
Great. So next we'll move on to Tom from Ecco Capital.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Tom Keraney, and just wanted to say, really honored to be here among so many impressive people. Yeah, and just that I really identify with the sort of high level vision of AladdinDAO. I think crypto is so interesting for this sort of leveling of the playing field that we have going on. And yeah, hopefully we can kind of bring in a lot of new users into crypto, but do it, you know, in a much less risky way. And kind of, I think AladdinDAO is a really interesting experiment in like a decentralized source of trust. So we don't have to sort of trust Coinbase or whoever, and just can kind of trust our peers. Yeah, this type of on-chain investment is really interesting to me. Sharlyn mentioned in the intro Google and search engines and the important role they played in the early web and continue to play. And I'm really interested in how systems like AladdinDAO can do some of this same type of curation and indexing, but in a decentralized way. So yeah, happy to be here. A little bit about my background. I first bought BTC in 2011 and have been since investing in crypto. Went on to study computer science in undergrad. Worked at Coinbase as like an early operations type person in 2015. Saw the kind of boom and bust of the ICO era in like 2017. Ended up leaving kind of in the bear market years and worked as a game developer and a game programmer in, you know, non-crypto gaming. Also did a lot of virtual reality development. And then this year I co-founded Ecco Capital. So we're a small VC firm. We're aiming to be first money in to DeFi projects. So pre-seed, seed. My daily work consists of talking with teams that are building new DeFi protocols. I think for all of these teams, thinking through liquidity is really important. And there's a lot of, you know, possibility for working with early projects and bringing on AladdinDAO as a source of legitimacy and also a source of liquidity is, I think, a really attractive thing for a lot of early teams. So that's something that, you know, I think could be an interesting point for me, is just kind of bringing in people pre-launch. Yeah, I also think that my work in game design, especially around game loops and incentive structuring, has sort of naturally intersected with crypto, especially in recent months and years. And some of the mashups between gaming and DeFi have been super interesting and made a lot of sense to me. And I think we're still very much at the beginning of this trend. I think maybe a unique thing I could offer to the community is this specific understanding around game design and being able to look at game projects from a programming and design perspective. And yeah, I think like the evolution of NFTs as game objects has made a lot of sense. And again, I think we're at the very beginning of this trend. And I think so I think kind of what I could offer to the community is hopefully looking at, you know, new types of projects and hopefully being early on emerging trends. So yeah, I guess, my wrecked story was pretty much the first thing that happened to me in crypto, which was I bought BTC on an exchange called TradeHill that ended up getting hacked. So since then, I think combined with, you know, the ICO craze, I've become a little bit, a lot more risk averse. And yeah, in sort of recent iterations, I think I've learned a little too well that if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So in recent years, I think I've kind of avoided the major bad decisions. So yeah, I wanted to keep it brief and yeah, I know we're kind of over time, but so yeah, really excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Tom. I think it's super helpful for the community, to have some talent can see things from the gaming angle, especially under the current environment. And excited to have you. So now let's move on to the last Boule candidate we have today, Mr.Block from Taiwan. And Mr.Block is a leading opinion leaders in Chinese community. Welcome.
Hey guys, my name is Chris, and I'm a core member at Curve Finance and Pleaser DAO. Really happy to be here and share some of my experience and hopefully join. So I founded Mr.Block back in 2018. I've been making a tutorial video about DeFi, NFT, just basically everything crypto related, and currently over 340 episodes that I've uploaded. And mostly it's in Chinese. And it's became like almost like a journey for me where every week I just go really crazy and study everything I can on Twitter about DeFi and crypto, and recently GameFi and NFT. And then I try to choose some of the most important ones and start talking about and creating tutorial video about it. Some of my earliest video were like the first tutorial about SNX when they launched the staking, and then like Compound, Uniswap, Beta before it was V1, Unisocks, then later just a lot of Curve video, and then just back in like late 2019, and then later the DeFi summer. So what I realized is that just like watching DeFi Dad's video, when you have these 10 minutes video, it really get people to focus and understand how to use a smart contract. Especially back in 2019, a lot of people don't have their money on MetaMask, mainly on centralized exchange, especially in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and then start teaching them how to deposit onto MetaMask, put it on Compound, sign transaction, and then start earning yields. So yeah, and then started building Telegram community and Discord. This was first because at the time a lot of Chinese community were built on WeChat, and I wanted to change that and then and let people to be on Telegram, because I saw that's how Lobster DAO were done. And then so now my group is around 7,000 members. It's been around for almost 3 years now. So I look at it almost like a Lobster DAO of Chinese version, where we ban any token pump or scam news. So we ban over I think 1,000 different members. So to make sure that the community is really clean, and met many different founder, many CTVC guys. Yeah, and I think the proudest moment I have in this DeFi journey and this crypto journey, we're talking about EIP 1559. One of my most watched video has around 15,000 views and almost like 3,000 hours, just on EIP 1559. And I feel like that's a lot, especially for something like that in Chinese. And we're able to get people excited about kind of the tokenomic change of Ethereum. And from that, a lot more people start, want to learn about DeFi and Ethereum. And yeah, just those are the moment that I became, really proud about it. And then how kind of the community really stay and really want to help out. And that's why a lot of them became founder of different DeFi projects within Mr.Block community. What I feel like I can help out for Aladdin is definitely bring a lot of these, degen and community stuff. I feel like I built that trust within the community where a lot of founder they like to come to me for advice, either on token design or connecting them with some VC and funds. And especially now, a lot of these DeFi projects, especially in China and Taiwan, they really need those connections. Mainly, I think right now, in kind of the investment realm, a huge percentage are still favoring Western project and having, and I think that's already kind of shifting, but still not putting that much focus on a lot of the Asian projects. So I think through this, I can really bridge some of the good founders and good teams. Also from my YouTube channel and my connections to help kind of connect the Western project to East as well. And for rec news, I think my biggest rec, almost rec, is definitely has to be the ESD, MT said dollar back in September and December, kind of during that crazy hype time of creating money from nowhere and trying to stabilize at $1 and go up, and then you rebound, and then every 8 hours you go back and check, and then so yeah, during that time was pretty crazy, and then get to hang out with I think some of the top tier VC at the time, and they were super hype about it. I think even that kind of created stuff like Basis, Frax, Fade Protocol, and a lot more other fork. And so yeah, that was kind of, I think, one of my biggest rec. Apparently V2 is coming out this year, but don't know what's going on there. So yeah, I have a pretty high Degen score, just been playing around, and also on NFT as well. Yeah, I think, and been connecting a lot of artists just to help them. So I've been I think buying NFT is fun and also can help non-technical people to get into the blockchain world. So been helping out a lot of artists in Asian area, especially Taiwan and China, and then just getting them on Foundation or Nifty Gateway or Origin to get their art to kind of the crypto and blockchain world. Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself, and really glad to be here and then get to meet everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Block. And your video is my favorite. So I'm sure many of the projects that DAO work on will need your help to turn them into videos. So next, coming up, we actually have a small panel to talk about how to do your research. So we all know it's very important to do your research, but how? And so we're honored to have 4 candidates to share from their own perspective and on how to do this. So on the venture side, on the venture camp, we're going to have Alex and Adam to share their perspective. And on the Degen side, we're going to have vfat and Mini to share their perspective as well. Okay, please go ahead. Alex, do you want to take a lead on this?
Sure. Well, sorry, 1 minute. Just getting my computer back off. If Adam wants to start, actually, that'd be Adam. If you're set up.
Just throwing me in the deep end there. Sure. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So thinking about this and the goals of the AladdinDAO, I kind of wanted to take it to look at some of the simplest research, because I think one of the things that we're bad at as a community is that all the research is very much focused on people who understand financial primitives, who can read on-chain events, who can poke around in Solidity. And part of the goal of the AladdinDAO is making this all much more accessible and making these yields accessible to a broader audience. So I was trying to think of what is the best advice I can give to people who don't read contracts, who don't know financial primitives, and help them better research some of these projects. So thinking about that, the average user doesn't kind of have this luxury of watching contracts constantly or managing their position day to day and getting out at the right time if something goes wrong. And so when we talk about the APYs they're seeing, you're not actually the APYs you're getting, right? They're one variable in this equation where it's like APYs divided by risk factor times the length of time that APY is actually stable. And so what it comes down to for most users is, how can I do enough research to see how long-term that APY is going to last? And so looking at it from like a business and product perspective, I think there's these 4 Ps that I call them. And it's like people, passion, primitives, and profit. And so you want to avoid something that's just another clone farm that's going to have a high APY and come crashing down or be a rug pull. And then it should have one of those 4 things. So it can either have the right people who ship stuff fast or super responsive, very engaged with the community, and that can be indicative of a product that's actually going to grow and blossom out of something here. It can have the right passion in a community who's going to make it a success by nature of being part of something larger than itself, by having engaged users and things like that. And that community, those passionate individuals shouldn't just be shilling, they should be actually involved in the governance and the community of that. So don't confuse those 2 types of passion. Having new primitives that enable new types of project is often a signal of kind of longevity in any of these projects, because we can actually build something new and tangible off of it, and it has this technological value. Or just actually being able to capture profit that doesn't come from its own token that it's issued. Things like Convex and Curve and Sushi, who are actually being used in driving profit. At the end of the day, revenue capture and cash is king. So if it doesn't have any of those things, or you don't know how to evaluate those things, then probably statistically you're better avoiding that project and looking at something that's been around for a bit, that seems stable, has a lower looking APY, because even if that APY is lower, your overall return is likely higher because you're more stable, have that APY longer term, and avoid risk. The only other risk factor that stands out to evaluate a project from a non-technical or non-financial background is most people focus on evaluating only that project itself, but I like to look at what are the tokens that they're using to farm, because you can often tell how serious a project is based on the type of tokens they are listing. It gives you kind of this indication of how serious do they take things, what are their standards, what risks are they willing to take on as a protocol. So if you've got a lot of shilly fly-by-night tokens that they're farming with, or tokens you've never heard of that are giving you a 30,000% APY, that's probably a red flag. That's something you want to avoid, because even if the project goes smoothly, the impermanent loss you could have, the hack risk of that token collapsing, the risk of being exposed to yet another smart contract that can have interoperable exploits and drain a single pool are just additional risks that are going to lower your overall earnings. So, it's not hard to go out and get these 20, 30% annual returns on lower risk assets and sometimes stable coins with, more common projects. And to most mainstream users, that's actually a really big deal compared to their bank account, especially if it can persist long term. So I think those are kind of the things that, looking at how do you do your own research and get better at doing that research. If you don't have the technical skill sets or financial background, which, you can probably develop and should develop as they make a world of difference, I would try looking at those things. Does it have the right people, passion, primitives, and profit?
That's great. I'll say shortly, my background is as a venture capitalist at several VC firms. And as a VC, we divide, there's really 3 areas that we do diligence on. And it's sort of team, market, and product. And that's the lens by which I view investing in DeFi and participating in farms as well, except maybe with a 4th one now, which is like community. And so the first part is markets and category. The big category that I spent a lot of time investing in early on was DeFi itself. And back then in like 2016, 2017, if you just invested in DeFi, there were like 1 or 2 DeFi protocols popping up every month. It was just so much smaller. So we basically just invested in like almost everything credible that we found. But then over time, there are subcategories that emerge, and you start to, so you can invest in DeFi lending, you could do derivatives, you could do stable coins. And now there's even subcategories of the subcategories. And that's things like uncollateralized lending or interest rate swaps that enable fixed rate lending and so forth. And the key here is we're trying to invest in very disruptive things that are new, that like build new categories, right? And that aren't just a derivative of something that's already happened. And then the second thing we do is we try to meet every team in the space, and we spend time with the teams. And then we do a lot of fundamental research on the technology, on the product. We'll do our own code reviews, things like that. And then if the protocol is launched, we'll spend a lot of time in the community. We'll join Discord groups. We'll follow the projects and their leaders on Twitter. We'll participate and view what's going on in governance, which is stuff that anyone can do, really, if they have enough time. And then we invest for a long time, multiple years. We participate in the protocol. We have a lab to do yield farming. And we try to add value as like an advisor and a helper and almost like a co-founder sometimes in the beginning. Now, one thing that's interesting to swap to the Degen model is there are actually a lot of downsides to what we do, which is the main thing is we move pretty slowly relative to people that are a little more on the Degen side. And since we're so focused on teams and deep research, and we have this route, like we try to meet every team before we invest, it's harder for us to do pseudonymous teams like Sushi or fair launches like Yearn. Those were both misses, but we're trying to get better. Participating in AladdinDAO actually is one way that I think personally I'll get better as an investor. And then we hire people on our team. We have analysts that are just in these communities directly working on it. And one of those analysts that we hired was Ashwin, who is here today, and I'm going to introduce him. So Ashwin was one of my analysts at Dragonfly, and who was just focused on DeFi, and now he runs his own firm, like a new fund just for Dragonfly focused on DeFi. And Ashwin, I think, sort of merges a little bit the traditional venture and then the more Degen side. So Ashwin, love to, if you want to jump up here and share a little about how you look at investments and the risks and returns and things like that when you're looking at a new DeFi farm or new DeFi protocol. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. Great to be here, guys. Yeah, like Alex said, I started at Dragonfly, was mostly focused on early stage venture and sort of underwriting early stage DeFi projects, as well as deep tech projects, and trying to figure out exactly which ones were legitimate, which ones we should potentially deploy capital into, and how we should approach that process. And initially, the process was extremely manual, and I think it took us a lot of time to actually figure out. But as we saw sort of with DeFi summer, last year, emerging in late June and July of 2020, it became a lot more necessary for us to move quickly and actually figure out which farms could we actually evaluate and move into quickly, because the yields obviously were much higher originally or initially at the beginning of a farm's life cycle rather than later. So time became a more important aspect in our underwriting process. So when I think about a new farm, I mean, I think a few different things. I mean, I think Adam mentioned a couple that I look at. The first thing I look at is definitely team. And that doesn't really matter, I think, with the really Degen farms. I mean, frankly, with the more Degen farms, I have a more technical focused underwriting process where I'm looking at, okay, is this team using smart contracts which have been, battle tested before, things like the synthetic staking contract. Can I actually use tools like Mithril or static analysis tools to actually evaluate the contracts to make sure that there aren't going to be, or the project is not susceptible to being rug pulled at any given point in time. And then, how much capital is actually deployed into these contracts, and like do I have a sustainable or sort of time advantage based off of how much capital has been deployed already, and how long do I think basically the yields will last based on that amount of capital, the amount of inflows that we're seeing, and based on the amount of attention we're getting from sources like Twitter and social media. So that's really what I use to evaluate the more Degen farms, and I think. Obviously Aladdin is more focused on longer term farms, but I think it's important to understand that, the differences there between how to think about Degen versus non-Degen. For non-Degen farms, I take a very similar approach to I think what Adam already outlined here, which is we take a much deeper approach to looking at the team. We'll evaluate basically if we think the team is strong, how long have they been involved in the community? Do we actually think that these guys are in it for the long term? What is sort of the long-term vision of the project? Is this a token that we want to accumulate over time? What sort of cash flows are associated with that token? Does it actually have a sustainable model? What are the defensible moats? All these different things that are more venture-esque minded, I think are very important to evaluating whether a project, we participated in a project's farm, but with a more long-term mindset. And if we do take a longer-term mindset, I think we care a lot less about the initial yields that we see on that project and care more about just accumulating the token and supporting that project from the very beginning stages. And I think this especially applies to projects which liquidity is an important factor. So obviously when the V2 Uniswap V2 sort of clone AMMs came out, liquidity was probably one of the most important factors in ensuring that those projects were successful, just because the deeper their liquidity pools were, the more they held pricing power, and the more they get routed to from aggregators, and the more that people were willing to transact directly with those platforms. So those are things that we looked at. I mean, obviously lending includes lending would be included in that bucket as well, and a lot of other projects which I'm sure are escaping my the top of my head right now. But that's sort of how I think about the underwriting process. I think with Aladdin specifically, we would definitely take a more venture, or I would definitely take a more venture-esque mindset to actually helping the project long-term, figuring out what are the long-term goals of the project, and then working with them to basically deploy capital in a way that best suits them. So that's a little bit about how I think about underwriting farms.
Cool, thank you. Next up, we've got vfat. I don't know exactly what to call you, but vfat.tools is like the Bible for people finding new farms. So yeah, why don't you share with us a little bit about what you look for, what are the criteria and things that make it onto your site and so forth?
Well, for my site, I've always just had an inclusive approach. It doesn't matter. I'm not physically able to check all of these. I get 5 requests a day for new websites to be added. I've always warned people that just because something's on my site doesn't mean that that I've checked it myself personally. So, but what I do for sites that I actually invest is I always take the technical approach. At the end of the day, the smart contracts are what is the most important when looking at a yield farm. Where was it forked from? What are the changes? Is there any possibility at all that they've left a backdoor in? That sort of thing. Yes, especially because most of the stuff I've dabbled in is the more degen stuff, which I've come off now a bit. Obviously, DeFi Summer is well and truly over. So now I take an approach more similar to what you guys are saying, in that I actually look for projects where I would actually like to hold the token. So like the AladdinDAO approach of 5 million holding versus the 5 million dumping, which was everyone's MO previously.
Great, sounds good. And 0x Minion, are you here?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm at 0x Minion on Twitter. So I guess from my point of view, right? So just a bit of a background. So my Degens score is like top 150 something. With 850 score. So in the very beginning, I guess like back in the days during DeFi Summer, I opted into a lot of farms, including like day one Wi-Fi farmers, Yam, Sushi. So I was also saving like Sushi, Yam as well. So I guess like I kind of like take a combined approach from I guess like pure investment side and also pure Degen side. So I do value, say for example, the mindset around primary market and also the mindset around secondary market. Though the primary market and also secondary market sort of people or things kind of like alike, as in like looking at very similar metrics but in a very different way. So take an example, right? So primary market investors will look at FDV. But secondary market, I always say FDV is a meme. Why is that? Because looking at FDV in an isolated manner is a meme, just because people, especially retail, and also I guess the whole sort of market as well, look at secondary in isolation in a way that we look at projects in a very sort of relatively short term, so like 3 months, 6 months, rather taking a, say for example, 5 years approach. So there's a lot of, I guess, like a market participants looking that way. which is also fine because you got sort of dynamic players within the market anyway. So that's why on the secondary market side, I look at, say, for example, vesting schedule, locking, selling pressure, and also very sort of information-based, event-based sort of price actions. So I take that into consideration as well when I do, say, for example, on the secondary market farming or buying coins, right? So on the primary side of things, obviously, you do need to look at FDV, cap table, and also like, I guess, like percentage of the tokenomics, and also the technical detail behind the team, and also a lot of the consideration. So I wrote a thread on my Twitter, just basically talking about primary market and also secondary market sort of investment / trading is very different. FDV on the secondary market is a meme, only in terms of looking at isolation. So on the secondary market, we look at like FDV as in a way that looking at like vesting, all those kind of stuff, right? So I actually took I guess like combined view on that, rather than saying I'm purely Degen. I do look at a lot of stuff as well. So I do have a like comp science background, so I can look into coding a bit. And I do look at social media activities, who's following what, and common followers, take an example. And also obviously using vfat.tools, just to sort of to look at what kind of new farms that is launching, right? And also I guess gathering a lot of information from, say, for example, Twitters, and also I guess Degen Score, Citadel Group, and Lobster DAO, and also a lot of other community groups as well. So I guess another angle is that for me, I do realize that sort of investment is a sort of like lifelong journey. So I don't really say I understand X things very well, just because we've seen a lot of stuff back in 2017. We thought we understand fully, or we publicly say that we understand fully, and we invested, but it kind of dies off. So DeFi is very, and also especially crypto, is very different compared to the traditional finance investment. So traditional finance investment, because we've got the structural framework, everything kind of like matured in a way. So it's more like, oh yeah, we know things very well, and then we just do we'll just do it that way. But for DeFi, we're still in the experimental stage. So it's kind of like for us to explore what's the right way of doing things, what's the sort of not the right way of doing things. So that's why it's like it's more test in production in a way. So we kind of learn how to do things in the right way along the journey as well. So that's why I was saying investment is kind of like a lifelong journey, especially in crypto. So I don't really, generally speaking, say, oh, that's definitely the correct way of doing things. But taking a combined view and also learning alongside with other people. So that's, I guess that's just my point of view on that. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, by the way, Johnson, I forgot you gave the metaverse tour on AladdinDAO last week. That was really cool.
Yeah,
Unrelated, a little bit unrelated, but
yeah, I mean, I always I'm sort of always fascinated about metaverse as well. So it's kind of cool. So again, like due to COVID and also a lot of restrictions, right? We don't really meet in person, but we meet in metaverse. So that's why I'm also like willing to try out those like metaverse stuff as well.
Yeah. So one recurring thing that's come up is the importance of really digging deep into the code from a technical perspective to make sure you're not getting rugged, you're not in a pool that's about to be hacked or something, whether it's intentional or not from the team. You know, some of us are very technical in this group. Ashwin is like a deep technologist. Ashwin just recently wrote a book that I think is published today or soon and it has like a foreword by Vitalik Buterin and Fred Ursum from Coinbase and Paradigm it's called DeFi and the Future of Finance. And but you know, people like Adam and I, we don't have as deep of a comp sci background, and I don't like, you know, it varies, right? So I guess one question, whoever wants to take this, is if you're not very technical yourself, what do you do? You know, is there places to look? Like, how do you supplement that? You know, what's the second best option to becoming like an expert, you know, super shadowy coder or whatever overnight?
As a non super shadowy coder, I'll happily
or shadowy
take that.
super coder, I think is the official phrase. Sorry, but yeah.
I think
the Senate
one of the
floor
things
in the US, according to that.
it is if you look at the contracts on Etherscan, you don't need to be a great coder to understand some of the basics, right? You can very quickly learn what these deposit withdraw, you know, emergency withdraw functions that we're seeing in every type of pool look like, and what should and shouldn't be there by comparing them. You know, I'm quasi-technical, as I said. I can dabble in a little bit of Solidity. It would be egregious, horrible contracts that would probably, you know, get rugged if I tried to make anything production. But learning to read through some of those basic commands and learn what to look for, and then being able to test them, like testing, does the emergency withdrawal function work if you needed to use it, can make just a huge difference. And if you don't know what something does in a contract, with so many of these farms just being standard forks, if you compare them to like the Sushi Master Chef contract and the you know, Uniswap and SushiSwap AMM contracts, if there's different things added into those deposit, withdraw, set, add, emergency withdraw commands that aren't seen elsewhere, just avoid it until you can engage with somebody who knows how to read what's going on. Because most of those things should be fairly standard or fairly readable, because it's math with words. And most of these are forks that we're dealing with. So learning how to just look at some of the basics there and make that comparison can be a huge lifesaver. And it's helped me avoid a couple of farms that early on, when I was way less efficient in Solidity, just raised a red flag for me because there's something in there I didn't understand.
Yeah, on Adam's point, just really quick, I think there's a great website called Diff Checker. If you want to basically check for non-standard, for example, ERC20 tokens, or for example, SushiSwap Master Chef contracts, which have been altered, it allows you to basically paste 2 copies of a contract against each other and view them directly side by side with any changes highlighted, which will allow you to identify problems very quickly. And it can basically just give you a binary signal whether to avoid something or not. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I guess from me really. So I just wanted to add on that as well. So I also used Diff Checker as well. Just looking at the different codes, and also I guess the other thing I would just do is just basically outsourcing these like intelligence to super shadowy coders. So that's why the wisdom crowd sort of things come up with sort of great power within the DeFi industry, because like the DeFi industry is moving so quickly, and you do need a lot of time to consume a lot of research, a lot of information. So it's kind of like you need to work with others together just to crack a sort of a problem in a way. Yeah.
Can I just add, there are some great resources, particularly lately the RugDoc website. So for people that have the time to learn this stuff, it is doable even for non-fully technical people. But something like AladdinDAO makes a lot of sense in this regard, because people can check these contracts and present them to the people that cannot, so they can make much more informed decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I think one area I'm looking forward to on AladdinDAO is just all the research and debates that we'll publicize, and we'll probably, I assume Boule members will use some of these sites, right? Diff Checker and things like that in our analysis, and we'll do our own original ones too. But yeah, one other quick question I have, and then we should start move on to the next part. There is this there's always this time and liquidity aspect. And there's sort of a fundamental tension between you like a pool, you like a project, it's really great, and then everybody else likes the project, and it becomes pretty crowded, and the yields go down. Although to Adam's point, what exactly are yields? It's APY is not the right metric, but the yields go down, everybody gets interested in it. And there's this question of, okay, do I move on to the next pool or do I stay in it do I move on to a riskier pool, right, that I haven't done as much research on? How do you guys think about that, moving between pools, and whether something gets too crowded, even if it's a really great project that you like? Whoever wants to.
So I guess I could start. So my way of approaching this is very, very systematic. So it's a little bit less qualitative. So basically what I do with each individual farm that I'm participating in is assign a risk score directly to that farm based on a variety of metrics. For example, the things that we discussed in response to the first question. And based off of that, I'll apply a discount to the APY, the expected APY that I'm receiving in return for participating in that farm. And basically I'll use those metrics or those APYs that I receive on a on a continuously updating basis to decide where to allocate capital most effectively. Once a yield becomes less attractive, basically over time, obviously as more capital gets deployed into a pool, or basically the price of the token that you're receiving decreases over time, then I'll reallocate capital based off of that to the different farms that I already have assigned risk scores to in my portfolio. And that's very formulaic for me, but it's a more systematic approach that I think something like AladdinDAO would take, just because there's no long-term view there on my side. It's mostly just, I just want to allocate capital in the most effective way possible. This is the most systematic way I've come up with doing that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess from my point of view is that so I mean, for me, I'm only on personal level, I'm doing farming, all those kind of things, right? So for me, I don't really have a really systematic sort of approach on that, just because I want to have the most efficient way of doing things. So I would generally speaking look at risk reward ratios. So by risk reward ratios, meaning say for example, if the pool 2's APY or APR is not that significantly higher than the rest of the, say for example, pool 0 or pool 2, pool 1, then the risk reward ratio for pool 2 is not that great. Just because for pool 2, you're essentially getting the asset exposure. So you're essentially getting the market exposure of the native token, which in the very beginning could be very volatile. So in order for these, I guess, farmers to provide liquidity in the very beginning, you need to have a really high reward ratios to compensate the sort of the risk exposure that these farmers are gaining into. So that's how I look into things. Say for example, right now I'm currently farming a high 3-digit farm. I'm accumulating the tokens, and there were some pool 1 or pool 0 type of things, but people just basically accumulating the coin as well. So you kind of don't have that, I guess, selling pressure on you. So if you don't really if you can't really figure out these things, you're actually the exit liquidity for these people to dump on you, right? So so that's why for farming I do really look into these kind of things. So say for example, if pool 2 APY is at 300%, and then pool 1 or pool 0 at, I don't know, 4 digits, I will go to pool 1 or pool 0 rather than pool 2. If pool 2 APY is at 300%, but pool 0 or pool 1 is at, say for example, 100% or below, I'll probably AP into pool 2, just because this is a sufficient sort of risk reward ratio, relatively speaking, for pool 2. But again, you also need to look at, say for example, circulating market cap and unlocking all those kind of stuff as well, and plus additionally looking at additional farming sort of farming opportunities, trying to, I guess, decide where is your cap, how do you actually put sort of size your capital correctly in a way just to achieve a sufficient risk reward ratio as well. Yeah, so that's just me.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I think we're getting the bell to end this panel. Thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to working with all of you on the Boule. I'll let Sharlyn take over now.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Alex, Adam, Ashwin, vfat, and 0x Mini. Just learned so much from you guys. So I think this just gave the community a flavor of the research course we're going to have. And we're going to have many of these going forward. So I think the next step is we're going to move on to Martin has put in a proposal, and he is going to talk about it briefly. Yeah, Martin.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I shortly going to share my screen. Yeah. I don't know if this is the right one. No. Do you see the proposal? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you turn this around, we all try to analyze projects, and find good projects and sustainable projects. But if you turn this around now, as we are candidates, people have to vote for us. So how should people analyze us? And I guess so. They are very nice insights we heard here, and I think for us it's easy to understand what we talk about, But I don't know if you turn it around and you think that people have to vote and choose between candidates. So how do they choose which candidate they fit? And I think we should maybe make this more accessible by just doing some analysis of a project. And my suggestion has been that every one of the candidates should just spend 1 or 2 until 2 to 4 hours and analyze a project they like to, and present it in a written form, or as an audio or as a video recording, and then upload it to the forum. And yeah, I made a vote about this, and many people found this is a good idea, but I don't know how the candidates think about this, and maybe you can give me some feedback what you think about this. Because then I think it's much more accessible, because if people look at the calls and you don't know this much about farming and DeFi, and so I think it would be more easy to see the difference between the candidates, because as have seen in the panel before, there are many different ways to analyze projects, and there are different ways who are all valid, And then the feedback from the community was to make this maybe a little bit more elaborate. I see Adam did write something back. I didn't see this. That we can randomly assign projects to people which then they can analyze. But I think this is maybe too much work. So my suggestion is that everyone choose the projects they like or they don't like, and then make a short analysis about this project and publish it on the forum. So yeah, that's my very little proposal. What do you think about this?
I'll speak to what I had said in the forum.
Please.
I really like the concept, but I think it's really hard to execute with what we're trying to achieve in the AladdinDAO. You can create this confirmation bias where we're starting to almost give the fodder to elect people that have really good presentation skills, or who the general members of the AladdinDAO already agree with the notion of, they pick a project that person already likes and holds, and so they're more likely to vote for that candidate. And one of the interesting advantages of this DAO is to try and get as broad of a diversity of skill sets and backgrounds and people that we don't agree with or don't think alike with, and get involved that way, so that we have a a broader consensus and a broader exposure to opportunities, and let the users then pick from what's brought forward. So I like the concept. I just think it's really hard to score or expose in a way that actually gets to the root of what is good and effective analysis, unless you have it in some structured study or have a much more broad approach, because there's such a diversity of approaches here. So that's my one concern there, is it may not actually have us arrive at evaluating the thing that we actually want to evaluate.
That's not my goal. My goal would be that you see that you see the difference, how people do it differently. Because I think that's maybe more easy to see than the quality of a project. I guess you could if you imagine you can fake it, everyone can write a very good review about the project who's really trash. So, but the style of doing this, I think it would be very much visible. Of course, then the projects are not comparable, but this would not be my goal. But that's what you're telling me. You tell me you think we need a structured
I guess what
approach
I'm
to this.
saying is that there may be some candidates who do fantastic technical analysis and modeling that doesn't represent well in a presentation. It's something that they could summarize or say, hey, I think this project is a good opportunity, but it's not going to look like a well-polished presentation for somebody to consume. And there may be other candidates who are really good at putting together a presentation that's convincing, but the analysis isn't all that great. So I think there is a disparity there that, it might be the right approach, but it's worth considering that downside of under highlighting some really important analysis that may not present well.
Okay. Do you have an idea how we can overcome this? Or because that's what the goal is, that, or my goal is that we get closer to the voters somehow. That's and I see that if you look at the presentation, then it's all high level talk, and I guess some of our future end consumers, if you think about them, they don't have this level of information. So how can we be attractive to them, and how can we be comparable for them?
I think the only way to do that and get to the real core of it would almost be to do some amount of time of test analysis where Boule candidates are putting up reviews and proposals of various farms that they think they like, and watching the success rate of that analysis. How did that farm perform? Did it have a rug pool? Did it have security concerns? That's a lot more lift, though, right?
Yeah. That's not what we want to do, or what I want to achieve, because I'm more on the Degens side, I guess, again, because I'm not, as you heard, as I have been listening what you said, and you're very analytic, and you're looking for a rational reason to go into a project. Myself, I'm much more gut driven, and so that's also my suggestion, to more gut driven approach. That everyone choose a project who is maybe very new, and then we see what's going to happen. It's not about you think it should be comparable at the end, that everyone has the same metrics. Yeah. Okay. It's just that one thing I want to avoid is to give people too much work. It should be easy to do, and not it's not expected that candidates have to work for 2 or 3 days to do this. Yeah, maybe other people. Yeah, Sharlyn.
Well, I just want to add some comments on this because we had I think Martin proposed this after last community call, and we had over 25 candidates presenting, right? And from the meeting we had, that everyone was really impressive, right? And just talk about what they have done, the resume, right? And but it's very hard to make a voting decision, right? So I thought this idea is very helpful in a way that we can actually see people's understanding level in DeFi, and knowledge structure, right? Their analytical capabilities, their reasoning process, right? I think that will help the community to evaluate, right, these people's capabilities and who, because at the end of the day, we're trying to select 30 out of 50 for the first batch. But of course, if the support rate, the voting power, is sufficient high for everybody involved, then possibly we can have more than 30 at the end. But I think we should come up with a way, so people can have a deeper way to evaluate all the candidates' capabilities. Or maybe we can come up with some other methods.
But the interesting is that, Adam, what you suggest is the thing we do, like as a real, not as a candidate, as a member. That's what we do afterwards, because then you see people voting like for the wrong projects. They don't perform, and then they will have to leave, and others join. So it would be much more very quick and dirty approach, and not like a real scenario. Because what you described was like, that's what the AladdinDAO should be at the end, that you look how what people picked, how it performs. Yeah. I think Charlie maybe has some connection problem. Or myself, I don't know. Is everybody left in the room?
Yep, but no Sharlyn.
Sharlyn, we lost her. Yeah, she's reconnecting, I guess.
No, I'm here.
Hi. Okay. Yeah. So
what other people I think the call has been going on for a long time, so
yes.
some people have other commitments left. So yeah, we'd love to hear from the others in the room, like Rodney, vfat, Mini, what you guys think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more about the proposal. If you have like a write-up on it, I'd love to dive in. I think it's awesome that we're getting proposals like this to begin with, because I think it shows that there's a lot of responsibility that goes into managing a large sum of money. And I think it would be like responsible to, probably publish some research on the types of things that you'd like to push forward into the community. But as a DAO, I mean, it might be a challenge to push things forward because, there might be like, you'd have to rally the community's attention towards this, but
yes.
At the same time, I think that it's very important to be brought up, and it's awesome that you did bring it up. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I guess from my side, I think it's just basically just start with something simple, and then we can just build out on top of it, and then if it doesn't work out, and then we can just shift to other way down track as well.
Yeah, and we don't expect this to be a massive load of work, right? It can be a simple written memo, of 2 to 3 pages, right? Or it can be just a recorded video or audio, right? Just for people to articulate their analytical process, how they, look at the projects.
Yeah, I think for me it's much more also like a pilot. It's not about to be perfect. It's just to get things started. It's not that. It's yeah. I've been in the DXDAO for the last half year, and at the end, it's all about starting somewhere. And I'm good at starting stuff. I'm not so good at structuring stuff, and so I would just give it a try and then see what happens, and then make corrections for the next round. And at the end, I guess we need anyway some like standards to analyze stuff. But like this, we see like the whole different skills, or even also like different worldviews, which reflect in this very unstructured, maybe unstructured results. But I guess this is a chance here, like to have like some diversity, and people have very different approach. And most at the end, it's not the approach who's like the important. It's not important if you're ally stuff or if you are more like gut driven, or if you look more at what people do. It's at the end, what wins is that the project you choose is winning. And if you have a feeling for this kind of projects, it's not, even if you analyze this is perfect, it doesn't make the project better. So yeah, that's just more my approach. But yeah, I think that's it from my side.
Mm-hmm. Any other opinions? Okay, so I think we have a proposal in the forum, and right now I think we have pretty decent support, right? And I think a lot of, how many people vote for that so far?
Oh, you're muted, Martin.
11 people voted for it. 10 for, or 10 or 9 for, and 2 against, I guess. But it's just, you know, people have to make an account. So it's like a hurdle, I guess, to take part in this. But at the end, you know, the forum, I guess we will use it also in the future. So make an account and vote.
Yeah. So I'm supportive of the idea, right? And I think, you know, post this call, because we don't have everybody here, right? I think post this call and we can, you know, just, you know, talk about this with people in the Boule candidate Discord channel, right? And, you know, just to get people to vote on it, to get a sense, right? What's the support rate? If maybe we'll get, you know, over 50 people support this, and then we just go for it. What do you think? Okay.
Yes, I guess this makes sense. Yeah, I would try to push a little more, but I also want to maybe there are not many candidates left, but I would like somebody to connect to me, and then we can if you do these things, I need feedback, and it's much more fun to have feedback and work together on this kind of stuff. And yeah, I have like a very nice situation because I left. I stopped working with DXDAO, so I have a lot of time to invest into this. And so, of course, everyone else, most of you are busy and has a lot of stuff around, but I have time. And if somebody else has time, they should connect to me, and then we will see how this develops. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks, Martin, for that. So, you know, I think next one just from me briefly on next steps. So we'll kick off liquidity mining next week, and we'll have, you know, the Boule campaign running in parallel. So I think all the Boule candidates should try to get more supporters from AladdinDAO community, and also, you know, from the broader DeFi community. And so it depends on, you know, the outcome of this discussion, you know, whether we should everybody should prepare an analysis of our DeFi projects to show to the community, right? And, you know, their analytical capabilities. If we decide to do this, we should do this week and next week. And after that, we're going to head into election and the voting process. It's expected to happen in the week of 13th of September. So, you know, please watch out for announcement on both liquidity mining and the Boule election voting process. Details will come out soon. And so for, you know, community Aladdin, if there's anybody, someone you'd like to see in the Boule, so make sure you join liquidity mining program, so you have the voting power to make a difference. I think that's it from me. And just see if there's anything from anyone else. And I think we pretty much cover everything we need to cover for today's community call. Hello, hello. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you so much for having this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks.
Any further questions? Okay. So Martin, why don't you bring the proposal to the Discord Boule channel, right? And so we'll have, like circle up with more people over there and make a decision, right? Try to make that decision, in the next couple of days. Yeah.
Just everyone. The thing is, if nobody opposes, normally then just things happen.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Actually, I'm supportive of
I'm
this
sorry.
proposal.
I think the thing is, if somebody has an initiative and people don't oppose, then normally it just happens at the end. It's just it's like it's not that. I don't think it even hasn't to be mandatory. So people can do it or they don't. It's just
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ashwin, do you have any suggestion on this? Do you think the Boule members should prepare some analysis of a DeFi project?
My personally. Sorry, I didn't get it.
Ashwin.
Ashwin. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, the question is, should they prepare an analysis of a DeFi project? I think that's definitely something that I would love to see. Yeah, to better evaluate people.
Yeah. Okay. So how about vfat? What do you think of that? Hello, Mr. vfat.
He's gone.
Okay, I think that's fine, right? I think most of the people here actually, are supportive of this. So, why don't you just push it to, the Discord channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, unless there's a strong objection. Otherwise, I think, we should do this, right? It's for people to make a voting decision. Yeah. Okay, so just thank you everybody for your time and for your contribution, right? And this, fantastic meeting. I have learned so much from everybody, and thank you.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.